Hey everybody, this is Josh Ronquist here for the Heavy Debriefings podcast. I just woke up about 20 minutes ago. I'm feeling barely alive. But to bring in the cheer with me, I got someone listening to everything from Billy Squire to Blackbriar. It is, of course, the Metal Faerie.
Why, hello everyone. What a better time to do a podcast than right after you wake up.
Yes, I'm gonna hopefully wake up with some enthusiasm and a can or two of caffeine to be able to wake me up
Crack
as well
open a
throughout
cold
all
one.
of this. Crack open a cold lake with the boys.
Exactly.
To get some Celtic frost going on here. So, you've been up for a while.
I have. I've been up a few
And
hours.
you've been prepping for the show, so
I have.
good on you.
Yeah,
You're not doing what I do.
I
and,
like to be prepared.
Yes, and you have a very fun-filled show going on here.
Yeah.
Where, of course, the big old highlight of everything is going over our top 30 albums of 2023.
Yes.
But we're going to make you wait unless you use those timestamps.
Exactly.
To figure out what those albums will entail. Mm-hmm. But, of course, before we get to any of that, we can't have happiness without sadness.
Exactly.
So let's get into the news.
Yes, so we have a few celebrity deaths this week, which is always...
Celebrity?
Celebrity-ish.
Yes.
Some of them anyway. Some of them are celebrities.
Yes. No, you said it weird. That's why I've...
Oh, my apologies.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to make fun of.
Okay.
You're the one that threw them under the bus, but you go ahead.
Well, okay, so up first we have Ralph Cirella, who, if you're not familiar, he was a Howard Stern contributor and stylist for Howard for many, many years. He was only 58 years old, and unfortunately he was going through treatment for a rare form of lymphoma and passed away during surgery. So definitely a shock, and it's sad. I mean, we used to listen to Howard Stern a lot. We haven't lately, but he was always such a big part of the show, you know?
Oh, yeah. Whether you agreed with his opinions on things or not, I mean, he was a part of some legendary fights and conversations that have happened over the decades. And, it's truly sad the way that he went. And wasn't that surgery, not even part of the lymphoma stuff? Wasn't it something else?
That I'm not sure of. I know Howard had said that he had waited longer than he would have liked for him to kind of deal with the lymphoma because it was a treatable condition and stuff, but who knows?
Yeah, and, it's just, when I think about that as well, too, how is High Pitch outliving everybody?
Right?
Yeah, High Pitch Eric is outliving everybody.
Yeah.
From the Whack Pack and the Howard Stern show. Mm-hmm. Like, the ones that are in perfect health, High Pitch Eric is outliving. Maybe it's like that termites and, the cockroach theory. It's like when nuclear holocaust happens, cockroaches will be one of the only things still alive.
Maybe. Who knows? So after that, we also learned that Norman Lear passed away. So if you're not familiar with him, he was a TV movie producer, famous for a lot of shows from the 70s, All in the Family, Sanford and Son, Maude, Good Times, Jeffersons, One Day at a Time, Different Strokes, among many others. He was 101 years old.
Yes, he also helped write a very significant South Park episode as well, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where Cartman's trying to get out of doing a group report, so he electrocutes himself, and he magically transforms back into 1776 to learn about the creation of the Declaration of Independence.
Oh, that's great.
He actually has a big speaking role in there, and he helped write the episode as well.
Yeah.
TV, entertainment in general wouldn't be the same without Norman Lear and everything that he was able to accomplish.
That is true.
He created some of the funniest sitcoms ever, and I dare say the sitcom pretty much did not go in a good direction after he stopped contributing to sitcoms, because you went from the socially endearing 70s era to the very white bread 80s and 90s sitcoms.
Horsing around.
And then in the 2000s, everything just became unwatchable.
Yeah, that is true.
But, it was very significant for what he was able to accomplish. And it kind of shows that humor is a great medicine. So, just try to keep laughing as much as you can. You might be able to make it to 101.
Exactly. And then finally, Miles Goodwin, who was the lead singer of April Wine. He passed away at 75. Not many details have been released as far as how he passed passed away or anything, but of course April Wine was known for some pretty big hits, Just Between You and Me, Sign of the Gypsy Queen, and stuff like that.
You forgot their biggest song.
I did?
I like to rock. I like to rock.
See, I don't even know that song. I don't think I've ever heard that song.
I've played it for you many of times.
Oh, I don't remember it.
And it's such a huge part of Trailer Park Boys when they kidnap Rush. They kidnap Alex Lifeson and... well, what do you want me to do? Well, play a song. Play I Like to Rock. That's April Wine. Well, then play that Diane Sawyer song. I don't care.
Okay, that was that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's one of their biggest songs.
My apologies. I'm more of a sappy ballad girl, so.
You're a little bit ballad, and I'm a
little
little
bit
more,
ballad.
and I'm a little more rock and roll.
There you go. In non-deaf news, we do have one other piece of news, though. Spinal Tap, the sequel, is going to be starting production in February. Of course, Rob Reiner, the director, will be working on that again, and he has disclosed a few bits of information about this. He said that Paul McCartney, Elton John, and Garth Brooks will all be making appearances, which is very confusing.
For a metal band movie, absolutely.
Yeah, and then also the original members will be in it again. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, also a little bit more to go on to that. This is their final tour.
Yes.
Which I truly appreciate, as so many bands say that they're doing their farewell tour, and then
they sure do.
Then they come right back a year or two later.
Yes.
And of course, in the way of Kiss, as we talked about last week, they'll become digital avatars, and they'll be able to play shows whenever they want to.
Yes.
Which is,
Yeah.
But with Spinal Tap, them making fun of the bands doing the farewell tours, I am all for that.
Absolutely.
I'm a little bit concerned now. I really hope it's not just about the guest stars and not the movie.
I know. I hope not. And those are some guest stars. I mean, they could have picked better guest stars.
Well, that's not to say that there won't be.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, what's to say that Cattle Captation or an El Nathrak can't be a part of it?
I suppose. So up next, we have some gaming news and excitement, shall we say. First of all, we saw the GTA trailer. So what were your thoughts on it?
Well, GTA 6.
Yes, GTA 6.
Yes, gotta get this stuff right.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, I was so curious what's gonna happen here because there's so many different directions it could have went into. But I love the fact that they are playing into the meme, and it's basically Florida Man the game.
Yeah.
Of course, you get to play as two different characters, and
Yes.
it seems like it's some kind of white trash, redneck love story
Kinda,
of like
yeah.
robbing convenience stores, and I imagine more of that is going to happen.
Yeah.
It's so funny. You can even see the ankle bracelets in the thumbnail that one of the lead characters is wearing. So, they got to stay in the town at least for a little bit before things happen. But I'm so very worried if it was going to be Vice City, because Vice City is a relatively small city.
It is.
And even when they did Liberty City and they did San Andreas, like with Liberty City, they just made the town bigger. With GTA 5, they made it like into 3 different counties.
Yeah.
This time, it's apparently the whole state of Florida, but it's Leorita, I think is how it's pronounced.
Okay.
But yeah, it's going to be the whole state of Florida, which I can't wait to see. And of course, Vice City is going to be an integral part of it, because that's one of the best parts from the original 3D trilogy is Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
Yeah.
But yeah, just adding all the modern touches of social media and the rednecks and, Florida Man does stupid thing, as you always see in the news. Like, of course, that's the meme that you can go to. Like, if you Google Florida Man and the day you were born, you could see something that a Florida man did that was so stupid.
Yes.
Graphically, it looks absolutely insane.
It does.
It's in engine, but I just hope that it stays that way over the next 2 years. I hope it's not one of those things where it looks so good and then it gets downgraded in graphic quality, because they give you this and then take it away. That's not...
No, not at all.
But I think Rockstar knows that they can't do that.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things, of course, is that it is a single-player game. It has to be with the
Yes.
story that they're being told.
Yes.
And that was one of our biggest concerns,
Absolutely.
is that it was just going to be Grand Theft Auto Online 2.
Yeah, I don't want that.
And that's not happening.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? Knowing that Vice City is your favorite of all the Grand Theft Auto games.
It definitely is my favorite, and I'm pretty excited about this. Like you said, I mean, Vice City is definitely there. It's represented, only looking way better than it did back in the day. All the kind of tropes that you're wanting from Grand Theft is there, only amped up even more to current day Florida with people twerking on top of cars and
apparently that was based off a real Instagram video.
oh geez,
or TikTok.
Of course it was. Of course it was. Yeah, I'm so excited to drive down the beach just running people over. But like having more than Vice City this time too, there's a lot of like kind of swamp scenes it looks like, and you know, you could probably get eaten by an alligator or something, who knows.
Will they do a Disney World knockoff?
Well,
if
that'd be
if they're doing
hilarious.
the state of Florida.
Yeah, that would be funny. That would be funny. I would enjoy that, but we'll see. We'll see. But it looks fun. I mean, it's a different spin having a couple instead. Yeah, I'm just curious what the story's gonna be like, but it has a lot of what I was hoping for already, and you know, I hope it's a good soundtrack too.
And speaking of that, of course, Lucky from King of the Hill, Tom Petty, one of his songs was playing during the trailer.
Yes, it was.
Which I didn't realize he was a Florida man himself.
Yeah, who knew? Who knew?
So, is it going to be Florida centric? And if that's the case, are they going to do a Florida death metal channel?
That would be amazing.
You know, where it's like a throwback to all the Florida
That'd be
90s
funny.
Florida death
That would be
metal.
funny.
Yeah. That'd be pretty sweet if that could happen.
Yeah.
But it's got a lot of neon.
It does, which makes sense even in current day Florida.
Yeah, I have a lot of hopes for it, but again, the biggest thing that both of us left out is it's coming out sometime in 2025.
Yes, so
Not next year, the following year.
yeah, so at most 2 years from now.
Yeah. So if you need a reason to stay alive like I do, Grand Theft Auto 6 is...
Cling on to it.
to cling on to it and just hope it'll be everything that you want it to be.
Yeah. So outside of that, we also watched the Video Game Awards.
Yes, and this was actually the first year you got excited about it.
Yeah.
Other times it's just like, yeah, I'll go along with it.
Yeah.
But this time you actually got excited about it. What was that all about?
I don't know. I kind of needed something fun, and I was hoping for the best. And, you know, maybe seeing GTA just days before that kind of got me in a more positive spirit with video games, because it hasn't always been the most enjoyable game awards in the past, I would say. Like, there's just typically some good stuff, but then there's so much that you're either not interested in, and some of the personalities on the Game Awards are a little
And this year was no exception when it came to that.
no exception.
But now that we saw the Video Game Awards, you saw Grand Theft Auto 6, are you finally going to play your Switch again?
You know, it's been a while since I played my Switch, and yes, I you know, I think I'm gonna plug it in today, and maybe on the Batman games. We'll see what happens. See where the day goes.
Well, I would love to see that happen.
Yes. So getting into the Game Awards, I guess starting off with, there was a couple really amazing performances. First by Hailung, they did a song from Senua.
Yeah, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2.
Yes.
Yes. The shorthand people might not know.
That's
what
true.
It is,
That's
so
true.
you
Thank
gotta say
you.
the whole thing.
Thank you for saving me.
Yes. If you haven't played the first game, it's based on Nordic folklore, dealing with a lead protagonist, Senua, who is dealing with psychosis.
Yes.
Who is constantly dealing with different voices in her head about how she's not good enough and never was. And in the midst of all this, she loses her love.
Yeah.
And she's on this grand quest to be able to find him. And the second game pretty much picks up right after where the first game ends up, which I won't spoil.
Yeah.
But we're definitely going to be playing that again before the second comes out,
Absolutely.
which is announced for next year.
Yes.
Which I'm very excited about. But Hailung is something a lot of the metal community has really attached themselves to. Is they're like a very heavy Nordic folk band.
Yeah.
Like traditional, ancestral folk music. What did you think of the performance?
I really liked it. Yeah, I mean, I think I've heard of them in the past, but like it's never been a band that I've like listened to or anything. But this has definitely inspired me to check them out. Like it was good. It was really good.
I totally agree. And the gameplay that they also had, looked incredible.
Absolutely.
I can't wait for that game.
Exactly.
I will be crying.
Yes, for sure. Also, the Old Gods of Asgard, also known as Poets of the Fall, outside of the game, did a performance from Alan Wake, full on with like dancers and everything with it. It was awesome. I really liked it.
I've seen a lot of people refer to that part of the game as like a Rocky Horror Picture Show section.
I can see that.
Which makes a lot of sense because it has characters from all parts of the game.
Yeah.
And everything. I love the fact that they actually did call them Poets of the Fall at the end.
Yes, so people know who to look up.
Yes. Although they do go by Old Gods of Asgard as
In the
well
game,
when you're
right?
looking up Spotify
Yeah,
and
okay.
stuff like that. So
Oh,
if you're
okay.
looking for just those songs
I gotcha.
from Alan Wake, they are there.
Okay.
Because the first game had a lot of their songs as well, and the second game does as well.
Yeah.
I've said it before.
Yeah.
That is the song of the year for me.
It's good.
If you disagree, you're wrong.
Yeah.
It just has everything that I want. It's so whimsical. It's heavy. It's Poets of the Fall, which is Finland's most underrated band in America. Although they're huge everywhere except America for some reason.
Of course, that's
And
what
of
it
course,
goes.
they come to America for this, but they won't tour,
Right?
which is an absolute shame.
Yeah.
I mean, High Long even tours here. They played Minnesota a few years ago.
Yeah.
But I would love to see Poets of the Fall, or even Old Gods of Asgard as
Yeah.
well, too. But with someone with pretty much no knowledge of the Alan Wake story,
Yeah.
what did you think of all of the performances, the way
Yeah.
they were dressed up, all
Yeah.
of that? What did you think?
I mean, musically, I loved it. I love Poets of the Fall. They were on my top list last year, I think it was,
Yeah.
when they came out, had album out. He has such an amazing voice, but it was really fun seeing like the characters and all the different voices and
The real characters as well.
Yeah, yeah. If you're not a musical theater person, this could change you into one. Like, it's that good.
Yeah, it's like a heavy metal musical.
It kinda, yeah.
It's cheesy, but it's fun cheesy.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
And especially when you learn of everything, like all the lyrics has to do with the game.
Yeah.
And it's so strange.
Yeah.
When you think about how it like turned into a musical, especially when you play Alan Wake 2 and you don't expect this part to happen.
A little trippy.
And it's just like it's like a narrator describing everything that you're doing. It's fantastic.
It
but,
is. It is.
It plays into so many different ways, and I can't say it enough. It is Song of the Year.
I understand. So outside of that, there was a number of games that were introduced or found out more about, I should say, in some cases, that really excited us. So
No, we did not go over all of them.
No.
I hate to break people's hearts on this, but we really didn't cover any of the anime games.
No, we're not anime people.
Yeah,
And
that's just not our bag.
Yeah, so we're just going over the movie, or not the movies, the games that we have interest in. So up first we have Brothers: Tale of Two Sons, and this is a game that we haven't played before, but they are remaking that, and it is one that we have interest in.
Yes, I know the story of it, and it's very, very heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Basically, if you're not familiar with it, it's about two brothers, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Their father becomes very, very ill, and they're looking for a way to save their dad.
Yeah.
What made it different than a lot of other games is that the left joystick controls one character, and the right joystick controls the other.
That's interesting.
Which really comes into play later in the game. Especially if you know what I'm talking about. You know how much... well, I'll leave it at that.
Is it almost a little Life is Strange in a way?
No, you can actually do more.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's from the creator of A Way Out and It Takes Two.
Yeah. Okay.
But it is a single-player game unless you decide to have two people and like one controlling each thumbstick.
That would
if
make
you
sense.
decide to do it that
I
way.
guess,
But
yeah.
it's strange because it's only been 10 years and they're doing a remake of it. But I think it's going to bring a lot more eyes onto it because it's very underrated compared to the other games the creator has made, which have gone on to be like very, very successful games. So maybe that's why they're doing it, to get more people to check it out.
Well, and I feel like remakes are becoming something they do more often now. I mean, think of Last of Us 2.
Oh, yeah.
That's getting remaked already, you know? So...
Yeah, well, thankfully, that's only a $10 upgrade if you already have the
Yes,
game.
that is
which
true.
we do.
That
so
is true.
It's only $10.
But yeah, I feel like remakes are continuously going to become more and more common, more quicker as we go.
Oh, it already has.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I was just trying to give the benefit of the doubt, or it's
for sure.
hey, trying to shed more light onto this game.
That makes sense. Up next was a game called Harmonium. So this is actually a sign language music adventure. The entire game is portrayed through sign language throughout the entire game, which is really neat to see because I don't think there are any other games that do anything like this.
No, I mean, there's other games that have a lot of accessibility, and they might even have characters that are that have different struggles, but
Yeah.
This one just like celebrates it, where
Exactly.
it's like a part where obviously you see the sign language, but in the main character's mind, singing your heart out.
Yes. Yeah. It's a very heartwarming.
I almost cried.
I know.
Watching it.
I know.
I
Me
could
too.
feel the water starting to
Yes.
build up in my eyes because it was such a beautiful idea.
Yeah, just seeing representation like that is absolutely amazing. So
And the fact that Xbox and PlayStation both have accessibility controllers now for people as well too. So like almost all walks of life are able to enjoy something like this.
Yeah.
Although one thing of note with this, it's also coming to Netflix.
Yeah. So, more systems it can get on, more accessible it can be to different people who might not have like gaming systems and stuff. That's awesome, I think.
Oh, very much so.
Up next was Exodus, which Matthew McConaughey presented. Apparently he's a part of it. I never saw like what he actually did in it or anything though, because it didn't sound like his voice that we heard.
Apparently there's a longer trailer that has him in it.
Oh, okay. But it's a bit of a sci-fi RPG.
Yeah, and I'm all for that. I mean, I loved Starfield.
Yeah.
And I wish there was a way for you to be able to play Starfield.
I know.
Maybe we can get Game Pass back and you like play it in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll see at some point.
But I want you to play that. But it looks gorgeous. If it's I mean, they did have some gameplay attached to it at the end, so I'm very curious.
Yeah, me too.
I'm curious.
Like I love a good RPG, and I'm not against sci-fi, so we'll see what happens.
And I almost thought it was gonna be like an Interstellar game because it's like I mean, that was the first movie where I saw it's like, oh hey, he can actually act.
Yes.
So I kind of thought, and it was also talking about like time travel and stuff like that, which is a huge part of Interstellar. So that made me think that they were actually doing a game on it.
It would have made sense.
Yeah, but I wonder how many people are gonna discover the California thrash band now because of the game Exodus.
Just searching for that and accidentally come up with it. Up next, Sega is creating new versions of a lot of their old games, but namely Crazy Taxi.
That's the big one for us.
Yes, we love that.
Of course, I don't remember all 5 of them. I'm gonna try to off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Crazy Taxi, Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, Shinobi, and one other. And I'm sure someone will smack me over the head and say, it's this one! But for us, the game that I actually got you to appreciate the Dreamcast for.
Yes.
Despite you already having one because an old boyfriend of yours bought it for you. And you just hid it away from me and not even...
I didn't even know I had it.
Is, of course, Crazy Taxi. And, of course, what was the biggest selling point to you for Crazy Taxi?
Well, the soundtrack, of course.
Which
Bad
feature?
Religion and Offspring.
Yeah.
Oh, can't get better.
Although Crazy Taxi 2 only had Offspring in it.
And that's fine.
But the original Crazy Taxi having Bad Religion and Offspring, that's just perfect for you.
And it's such a fun game, too. Just driving around, picking up people and trying to get to your destination in these crazy ways.
Yeah, one of our local malls, one that we used to live by, actually had the full arcade version of Crazy Taxi.
Yeah.
And I wanted it so friggin' bad because I love that game so much.
It is so fun.
So what did you think when, I mean, obviously they didn't do like full-blown trailers for all the games, but you did see a little bit of what they're working on. What did you think of the new look of Crazy Taxi?
I'm super excited to play it again. It looks fun. The only thing I'm concerned about is what are they going to do with the soundtrack.
Oh, they have to make it a good soundtrack.
I hope so. I hope so.
It looks really good. It looks like a next-gen game. Well, current-gen game if you're talking about PS5 and Series X. It looks updated.
Yes.
And that has me very, very excited.
For sure. So up next was my highlight of the evening, and yours as well, I believe.
It's up there.
Yeah. A game called OD, presented by Hideo Kojima and Jordan Peele. They're partnering together on this game, along with some other people too, apparently, that
Which
were
they
undisclosed. Yes. The trailer wasn't like anything crazy. It was just a few people saying the same like verse, essentially.
And screaming.
But even with that, it was kind of terrifying. So I'm so curious to see what this ends up being. I love Jordan Peele. Like, he is just a mastermind with horror. And obviously Hideo Kojima's amazing.
You won't give his comedy a chance.
I don't. I just never. Well,
you might appreciate it now.
Maybe I would now. Back in the day, prior to all the horror, like, it was never my bag, but, you know, maybe I'd have a new appreciation for it now. But horror-wise, he is a genius.
Brilliant. I have absolutely no idea what's going on.
Pretty much. It's like, we're so excited for this, but we don't really know what's going on.
All that I know is that it's some kind of interactive horror game.
Yes.
And that has me excited that Hideo Kojima has wanted to make a horror game for a long time.
Yes.
Of course, the big thing, if you are a video game nerd, is that Hideo Kojima was originally supposed to be making a Silent Hill game with Guillermo del Toro and the one from The Walking Dead.
Okay.
The one on the bike.
On the bike?
The biker.
Oh, Norman Reedus?
Yeah, Norman Reedus.
Yeah.
All three of them were going to be making a Silent Hill game.
Okay.
And there's this legendary demo on the PlayStation known as PT.
Okay.
And at the end of it, you find out it's supposed to be for Silent Hill. Then he was working with Konami, who unceremoniously fired Kojima before Metal Gear Solid 5 even finished being made, which Kojima was finishing up on. So the game is incomplete, really. And ever since that time, he's been wanting to make a horror game because Silent Hill got taken away from him.
Yeah.
Now it looks like he's finally going to be making a horror game.
Oh.
And he got to work with Norman Reedus on Death Stranding, which is another brilliant... I have absolutely no idea what's going on.
It's true.
Although, one key thing to know.
Yeah.
This is on Xbox.
Yes.
Death Stranding is PlayStation.
Yeah.
OD will be on Xbox.
Yes. So I'm excited for that. Another one I am quite excited for is Jurassic Park Survival.
Yes, and before we even go into it, a good friend of mine, Vikram Shankar of Silent Skies Productions, him and Tom England are doing the soundtrack for the game, which I did not know that till the next day.
Who would have guessed they would do a soundtrack for Jurassic Park?
Well, they did Evil Dead as well,
That's
which I thought was
true.
Evil Dead the game, and
well,
I know they're working on a new Warhammer game, which I'm not sure which one it's going to be, but the music works so perfectly in the trailer.
That is true. But yeah, I love Jurassic Park. I've never really played any Jurassic Park game. Like, we had
They're available on the Switch.
Oh, well, then maybe I will change that. But I know we had one of the more recent ones where it was kind of the building simulator type thing, which was hard to get into.
No, yeah, the old games from like PC, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, they're a part of a collection right now.
Okay.
Of like all the old games, 7 old games of Jurassic Park, and they're available on PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch.
Yeah.
So that might be something else for you to actually get your mind into a different place and play some old school Jurassic Park games.
Exactly.
Now, I should say with this one is it looks to be like either a first person or a third person action adventure game.
Yes.
Where you are running from the dinosaurs and trying to escape.
Yeah.
And what I learned was this game takes place one day after the events of Jurassic Park.
Okay.
The original Jurassic Park.
Perfect.
So it's going to be deep in there.
I like it.
And
I like it.
I'm also so proud of Vikram. Like, his music is being played alongside John Williams, one of the greatest composers of all time.
As it should be. Vikram's amazing.
Yes, he is. And we'll be talking about him a lot later coming up.
Imagine that. Up next, we have Lost Records, which is from the people who made Life is Strange.
Yes, this one looks like it has to do with like time travel.
Yeah.
Or it's at least gonna flash forward. Maybe it'll have some flashback kind of things. But
like that.
It looks like it's an all-girl 90s punk band.
Kinda.
Or alternative rock
something
band.
Along those lines.
And something mysterious happens.
Yeah.
And it feels like they're gonna have to come back and deal with what happened in the 90s.
Yes.
So this looks like another soul-crushing, tear-jerking game from the team that makes Life is Strange.
Exactly.
Now, what's your thoughts on Life is Strange?
I love the Life is Strange games. We played them all together, and they're all amazing. Get your box of Kleenex for if you're gonna play any of them, because you will cry. Like, it's real stuff. It's sad stuff. It's touching stuff, but it's so good.
Do you have a favorite one?
No, not off the top of my head. I'd have to do some thinking about that.
1 and 2 made me cry so hard.
Yeah.
The third one didn't make me cry as much.
Yeah.
In the first chapter, it did.
Oh, for sure.
But everything after that, it felt like it kind of did like a little left of center turn for what you expect from.
Yeah.
Which is no less good, but just didn't make you cry the whole time.
Yeah, it kind of made different emotions come out.
Yeah. Which, that was the whole point of the game, was to show like different kinds of emotions through the game, which I appreciated.
Exactly. Up next, one that, we're kind of feeling on Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League.
The original idea, I love.
Yeah.
I love the idea of playing as the original Suicide Squad.
Yes.
I love the idea that you're going to be battling all of the Justice League.
Yeah.
But the problem that I'm seeing is it looks like it's going to be a multiplayer game, and it looks like it's going to have a S-ton of microtransactions attached to it.
Yeah.
Which I am not excited about.
No.
Although Smo Joe makes his return to gaming as well, too, where he plays King Shark.
That is true, but...
He's good enough for the voice of King Shark, but not Sweet Tooth.
But you know what? I prefer the Ron Funches King Shark.
Me too.
That's just the way it's going to be.
Although the Sylvester Stallone King Shark was great as well, too. In the James Gunn version of The Suicide Squad.
That is true,
But yeah,
true.
Ron Funches King Shark, where he's just this smart nerd who
Yes.
now has 9 kids. Of course, we're talking about Harley Quinn, the animated series.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my favorite interpretation.
Absolutely.
But it looks great.
Yeah.
It's in the same universe as like the Arkham games.
Yeah.
It's actually in daytime now,
Yeah.
which none of the Arkham games were. They're
No.
they're completely in the dead of night. But I just hate that they're doing this live service crap. It's never been my thing, and it never will be.
I agree. It looks fun, like the idea, the premise of it, and everything. But if I buy a game, I want the full game.
Yeah.
And if it's DLC later too, that's fine. But like the little things you have to buy here and there and stuff, no.
Yeah, microtransactions.
Up next, another really exciting one. They showed a preview for a Blade video game.
Yes, this is made from the people who made Deathloop.
Yes.
Which is a subsidiary of Bethesda. I am so excited for this.
Me too.
And it's funny enough, the second vampire game that has been announced, of course, the one that came out before, which I'm completely forgetting the name of right now, that came out earlier this year.
Oh, yeah.
It was a vampire game that's a lot of people hated and considered one of the worst games of the year. So, it's a little tricky that they're going to be going with another vampire-esque game here.
Yeah.
But it is an IP that is well established.
It is.
I didn't realize Blade has been around for 50 years.
No, I had no idea.
But I think it's a great way to celebrate Blade, especially with the upcoming movie that's supposed to be rated R, as it should be.
Yes.
You can't do a PG-13 Blade. What's the matter with you?
No.
They didn't show much. They just kind of showed like an animated trailer, but I am very excited for it.
I am as well. Like when I was younger, I enjoyed the Blade movies. It's been a long time since I've seen them, so I definitely want to go back and rewatch now before the new movie and before the game and stuff like that. But I'm super, super excited for this game.
And don't forget the best of the 3, Blade Trinity with your boyfriend Deadpool.
Oh yes.
And main villain Triple H.
Never forget.
But no, this looks like it's an original story of Blade, and I'm very, very excited.
Absolutely. And then finally, there was the game Last Sentinel, which is from the former Rockstar devs, and it's very futuristic.
Yeah, this one, a couple years ago, a lot of people left Rockstar Games.
Yeah.
Like pretty much right after the release of Red Dead 2.
Yeah.
And they decided to make their own studio, and we kind of looked like it was like a all-in game engine trailer. I think that's how they announced it, and it kind of has a cyberpunk kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
But they didn't describe what kind of game it is. It could be in first person, it could be third person, it could be an action adventure game, it could be a walking simulator. There's a lot of things that it could.
Yeah.
But knowing that former members of Rockstar are part of it, it has me intrigued because it might bring some of those things that I love so much about Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption to it.
Exactly.
But into the future rather than the present or the past.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm very intrigued by it as well. I mean, obviously didn't get a huge glimpse into what it'll be like, but again, with Rockstar, like I love some Rockstar stuff, so, and I seemed so excited showing it too. That was one thing that was very endearing about the devs that were there, like presenting it. So I'm excited to see more about it. Yeah.
Oh yes. One more game that I forgot to mention, mainly because you were in the bathroom.
Oh sure.
The creators of No Man's Sky have a new game that's coming out. I'm totally forgetting the name, but the middle word is no.
Okay.
So they love having no in their game titles.
Of course.
But it's supposed to be a completely Earth planet. Like you can explore the entire single planet.
Oh, okay.
And it's some of it's procedural, some of it gets made up on the spot. They say it can be multiplayer, but I think you can also play it single player as well too, like in No Man's Sky.
Good.
They added multiplayer to it later, where you can see other people. But it's supposed to all take place on an Earth-like planet.
Yeah.
And and you can explore the whole thing, and I imagine a lot like No Man's Sky, where you can like build things, discover things, all that stuff.
Okay.
Now, I just hope it doesn't end up like the release of No Man's Sky,
Yeah.
where it was universally hated, but over time,
Years later, it became amazing.
yeah. So I hope it just starts off amazing to begin with.
Yeah.
They didn't give a date on when it's coming out or a
Okay.
year or anything. It's just what they're working on next.
Okay.
So it could be good.
Sounds intriguing.
Yeah. So what about you? Did you tune into the Video Game Awards? Is there any games that you're looking forward to? Did you think it was going to be like a Sega Dreamcast Mini, which is the impression that I originally got, and then I found out, oh, they're actually like doing stuff with the IPs again?
Yeah.
Do you think there will be a Dreamcast 2, like has been haunting Sega since 1999? Or was there any other games that we didn't talk about? Any games that we did talk about that you're excited for or not excited for? Let us know down below.
So, as many people know, you have been working on your top 100 list of the year for a while now, and over the past 2 weeks, you have been diving that out to the fans for their listening pleasure to learn and kind of see what's there. And, well, it's time to talk about your top 50.
Yes. In case you've somehow missed it and you only check out the podcast,
Yes.
I have the lists up in written form up on heavydebriefings.weebly.com. I had the video versions up on YouTube. I also have the shorts version, which I separated all the albums.
Yes.
And put them up one by one on YouTube Shorts, on Instagram Reels, and my Instagram story. I also have the links up on Threads and Blue Sky, which no one is apparently using. Yeah, I've been working myself to the bone trying to promote this stuff.
You have.
And some of it's really paid off. I just woke up to a lot of bands thanking me
Yeah.
today as we're recording this. We're actually recording this a day early.
Yes.
Because you may be going on a little bit of an adventure for some reason.
We'll say that, yeah.
Tomorrow. So we're recording this a day early. And if there's any news that happens between today and tomorrow, we'll go back and record it and make it seem like we didn't actually do anything.
Exactly.
Wait, did I give that away? But no. Last week I did albums 100 through 51. This past week,
Yes.
I have done albums 50 through 1.
Yeah. So first up, you're going to be going through your 50 through 31, right?
Yes.
And then we'll be covering our top 30s.
Now, how are we going to do that? Are you going to go first with that, or am I?
It doesn't matter. Either way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, some of these will be a shock to you, maybe.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if any of these is like, oh my god, I've never heard of this album before.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's on here. But, you know.
Placement.
The placement.
Yeah.
Now, do you have any thoughts of my list so far, like, with how I've done this? I mean, obviously you saw me record the first half.
Yes.
Before you went on your weekend venture. But, do you have any, like, thoughts of the music that I pick out, or how I do the recording, or how I put things together? Anything to, like, maybe put a little, step in my get-go?
I mean, it's just insane the amount of music you listen to, first of all, because this is just a small portion of the amount of music you listen to throughout the year. So the fact that you're able to condense it down even this much is a huge feat. But then being able to put into any kind of discernible order, like I do only do 30 for a reason. So it's incredible the amount of work you put into it. But as far as the 100 through 51, there wasn't any shockers for me, I would say. Like, there was some that I was like, yeah, that should have been higher. But I know you didn't listen to some of them as much as you maybe could have, just because, look at the amount of music.
Which I will say, probably coming up on Monday, I will be releasing a list of all of the music that I thoroughly checked out in 2023, which will be 202 albums. Not the full albums, because I don't want to give everything away like that, but the way I sample it on Spotify is that I pick a song that I think is a great representation for the album, or one that just sticks out to me, and I put it together in the list. I'm going to do it in alphabetical order, but it will be 202 albums.
Wow.
And I narrowed it down to what we have here.
Yes.
So, with all of that said, starting it off at number 50 is Mistfall with Celestial Vision, a very great symphonic gothic metal band, absolutely fantastic work in here, and a band that's not afraid to show their symphonic side, which is one of my biggest points of contention that's been going on in music lately. I know that's true of you as well.
Oh, yes.
I miss symphonic metal.
Me too.
And I'm glad there's bands like Mistfall that are kind of carrying the torch for that.
49
is is Enforced with War Remains, my thrash metal album of the year.
Nice.
Now, I know for a lot of bros out there, like, it's your thrash metal album of the year, but it's at number 49. Well, I don't hold thrash in that high of regard, honestly.
Yeah.
There's thrash bands that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
Testament, Death Angel, stuff like that. But they didn't put out albums this year.
Nope.
And a lot of the thrash bands that people hold so near and dear, I don't enjoy.
Yeah.
Like Metallica.
And aren't even thrash anymore.
And, what are you talking about? Have you heard 72 Seasons? They have thrash riffs on there.
Having a thrash riff doesn't count as a thrash band.
Thank you, that's why you're... But yes, Enforced, perfect mix of thrash and crossover and a little bit of old school death metal. Like, I hear some obituary riffs on here that would make a lot of people happy. But yeah, my thrash band of the year, my thrash album of the year. 48 is Abandon All with Far Away. A Finnish alternative rock, heavy metal, kind of gothic band doing their debut album. It's strange talking about a Finnish band not doing mellow death because it's so synonymous with the genre.
It's true.
But then again, Poets of the Fall isn't mellow death.
That is true.
But that's a topic for a different time.
Yes.
This is a really fantastic album, and I really wish them nothing but the best because I really dig what they're doing. 47 is Wintersea with Woven into Ashes, the band's third album from the Pacific Northwest. Very extreme progressive metal, so if you're looking for stuff like Niav the Scaris, but without the violin, and some other genres mixed in together, this is a band that's absolutely worth your time. They just got done touring with Moon Sorrow in the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for something that kind of has that gothic feel behind it, that's for you. At 46, TikTok's biggest obsession in the metal world right now, Orbit Culture with Descent. I discovered the band this year, like so many people did, and I really enjoy what they do. It's like melodic death metal, it's symphonic metal, it's death metal, almost deathcore points. Like it's got like Soilwork type choruses, almost kind of a James Hetfield kind of voice sometimes in the clean vocals. But that's only something if you really pick up on it.
Yeah.
But you enjoy the music. Don't?
Yeah.
I heard you do the in there.
The James Hetfield
Yes,
reference.
But they're a very abstract band that also comes together very cohesively, and I enjoy what they do. I'm not doing the trend hopping on this, otherwise it would probably be in the top 10, and I would have no integrity in what I'm doing. But I enjoyed them enough to put them on the list. 45 is Edenfall with To Gaze Longer at the Earth. Much more of the gothic side of symphonic metal.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoy what they do. It's almost like gothic death doom and symphonic metal mixed together.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of people have said this year that gothic doom is dead, and I have more examples of how that's not true coming up later in the list, but a band like Edenfall doing this is just absolutely fantastic, and I'm glad to see them back. At 44 is the band Temic, known as with their debut album Terror Management Theory. This has different members, past and present, of the Neil Morse Band, Haken, Devin Townsend, and more. Really fun progressive rock, progressive metal. It doesn't get as wanky as like Haken does. It doesn't get preachy like the Neil Morse Band.
Yeah.
It's just like a good mix of almost kind of like a Fate's Warning kind of feel of progressive metal, but just modernized for 2023. Okay. So that could be up your alley. Speaking specifically to you, not just the audience.
Yes.
43 is Saturnus with The Storm Within, the band's first album in 11 years. Been around for 30 years, and this is their fifth album. So again, quality over quantity.
Yes.
Now, if you could imagine from the album title, this is a very mental health inspired album, and that's something that Death Doom, Funeral Doom does so very well, is pull at your heartstrings and makes you want to cry kind of music. But the music is also very, very good. The vocal ability is fantastic on this album. If there wasn't so much good Death Doom and Funeral Doom this year, it probably would be higher, but I'm happy that they made it into the top 50, and I don't think there's enough people outside of the niche of this style that really knows about Saturnus, and I think there's a lot more people that need to check it out, including you, because there's a lot of moments that I think would really hit you hard.
Yeah.
At 42, we got Battleborn with Blood, Fire, Magic, and Steel, the debut album for the Skyrim metal band, as they like to call themselves. All of the lyrics are very inspired by the Elder Scrolls, and specifically on this album, Skyrim. And when you really listen to it, you can, if you know Skyrim well enough, you can think of specific moments in the game that really hit. And the music feels like a great soundtrack to those moments that are happening. But even if you don't know anything about Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls, it is just fantastic power metal from start to finish. It's super catchy, super cheesy, but it's why I like it, is because of how it is. Maybe it's not the most intellectual power metal that you can hear in 2023, but it doesn't need to be either. It's fun. Power metal, it can either be very serious or very fun, and sometimes you need the fun bit as well. And in the exact opposite style of music, at 41, I got Gridlink with Coronet Juniper, the band's return album after breaking up nearly a decade ago. I love this band to death. It is my kind of grindcore, progressive grindcore, where it's got all the absolute insanity of grindcore, but it has moments of progressive metal that are thrown in there as well, so it'll turn on a dime and sound like a completely different style of music, and it has a lot of great melodies and harmonies at top of it. Yet, at the same time, the whole album is only 18 minutes long, and I can imagine it reminds you of that band that we saw opening for Night Demon, who was touring behind 8 minutes of music.
Yes.
And one of the songs they played twice.
Yes.
Because of the Family Guy joke from the Star Wars episodes. I'm playing that same song. All right, same song. And then they did it again. That was a part of their 8-minute set that they were touring from. I believe they were from Ohio, if I remember that correctly.
I think so, yeah.
But with Coronet Juniper, if you're looking for something on the absolute extremes of music in 2023, this is the album to check out. And at number 40, I'm kind of surprised to see it drop this low, but I think it's just because there was so much music coming out in the year.
Yeah.
As Bareness with Stone. Their first album not to deal with the color spectrum, because all of their previous LPs have something to do with color in some way, shape, or form. Be it red album, blue record, green and yellow, purple, or golden gray. This one is Stone, so I'm not sure if they're doing like minerals, if they're doing elemental stuff, I'm not sure. But I will say for this album, it's much more on the heavier side when it gets heavier. It's much more mellow when it gets mellow. It feels like a best of Bareness with brand new material. They recently played here, but they also played with a bunch of indie bands, which I know wouldn't have been your bag.
No.
Although it's so weird with that tour, because they had indie bands sometimes. They had Imperial Triumphant for a couple shows. Like, they went all over the map.
Yeah.
So I gotta respect them for bringing out so many different kinds of bands on there.
Definitely.
And I'm glad to see the continuous rise of the band over all this time. At 39, we got Eclipse with Megalomanium, one of my favorite rock bands. Eclipse just continues to write some of the most catchy, hard-hitting, and emotionally driven rock music that you'll hear. And that's no exception here with Megalomanium. There's a couple more heavier hard rock, heavy metal songs on here. There's a lot of more poppy, almost ballads on here as well. There's some pop punk on here, so if you like your My Chemical Romance, there's a couple songs on here that remind me of them. But overall, I've seen a lot of people say that it feels like a very abstract album and just a collection of songs. To me, it feels just like they're expanding their genres and they're showing everything that they're capable of on this album, no matter how heavy or light it gets. And I think it's a terrific starting point if you've never checked out the band before. And of course, to go along right with Eclipse, because the singer I'm about to talk about and the singer of Eclipse also have a band called Nordic Union, which was your #1 album of 2022.
Yes.
I'm not sure if it still is, but I remember last year when we did this for ourselves and no one got to hear it, that was your #1 album with Animalistic. But of course, I am talking about the legendary singer of Pretty Maids, Ronnie Atkins, with his third solo album, Trinity. This is such a gut punch of emotions on this album. And you would think it would be just a really sad album. It's not. It's a very positive album. And with everything Ronnie Atkins has gone through and is still currently going through again, seeing just the positivity radiate from him is something to really behold and admire. And I put this on when I need some cheering up, and even if it doesn't work, it still kind of does, because it just, I mean, especially a song like If You Can Dream It, You Can Do It, which, you know, it could be cliched sounding, it could be cheesy, cheesy sounding,
Sure.
but considering everything that he's gone through
Yeah.
and going through, and he could still have this,
Exactly.
I think that's very motivational. Just a fantastic positive album. And I have a lot more negativity, don't worry, but sometimes you need some positivity thrown in there as well. In almost a complete opposite direction, we got the Lion's Daughter at 37 with Bathhouse. This is a very synth-driven horror metal band. So if you like the stuff from like John Carpenter, there's a lot of those kind of synth things rolling on here. Unlike their previous album Skin Show, they start to go a little bit more abstract on this album. They start to experiment a little bit more with like doom. There's one song that has a little more thrash elements to it, but it still has the synth horror throughout the entire thing, which has become their signature, and one of the reasons I love listening to them so much, because it has that 80s horror and modern metal thrown in together in a very unique blend, and more people check them out. At 36, we get Oryad with their debut album Sacred and Profane. Another example of Vikram Shankar being able to do some fantastic work here with the production, keyboards, and bass on this album. This is a duo from Colorado who makes symphonic metal, almost near death metal, progressive metal, and avant-garde music. Like, it's all over the map, and they have moments that almost makes you feel like you're entering the 1920s and you're about to watch a vaudeville show.
Yeah.
And then there's moments that are a little more operatic as well. The vocals on this album are unparalleled. Like, she can hit low of lows, she can hit those operatic highs. It is incredible work.
Yeah, this one didn't make my list, but I will say that this was close because her vocals are just amazing. They're so beautiful.
That is a shame it didn't make it.
I know.
That makes me so curious to see what actually did make your top 30. But we're inching ever closer to it.
Closer.
At number 35 is Sermon with their sophomore album Of Golden Verse. Very dark progressive metal. There's moments that feel like Catatonia, a couple moments that feel like Tool, some moments that feel like Vader with clean vocals, which is absolutely insane to think about. But of course, you got the ex-drummer of Vader, James Stewart, now a part of Sermon, so that's where you can really hear the Vader influence going on there. This is some very emotionally driven dark progressive metal, looking at the state of the world, war, suicide, so many different things that just hit me so very, very hard. And for anyone who doesn't know what happened, I almost had a near attempt the day before I did an interview for this album, so it was a real struggle for me to get through. But it was also me at one of my most honest your moments. Like, one of my favorite songs on here is about the idea of suicide, and we talked a lot about that until Zoom cut us off, which maybe I just need to get the pro version so that stuff stops happening, maybe, but that's a different discussion for a different time. But I thoroughly enjoy this album, and if you like the metal side of Catatonia, and if you're looking for like almost extreme metal with all clean vocals, no growls, no screams, if you're looking for something with all clean vocals, definitely give Sermon a chance. 34, a band I know you're not familiar with because I put this together after I put everything together, is the sophomore album from A Flourishing Scourge with Sickened Seed. Another band that is really into the extreme progressive metal side. Hannes Grossman, formerly of Obscura, now of so many different bands, does the drum work on this album for this American band. They hit all the territories. There's so many great melodic moments that take you out of nowhere. There's some really brutal moments that happen on here, but it's all cohesive. It all makes sense. Very underrated album considering it just came out a couple weeks ago. I really hope people will check this out, be it from my list or they just discover it themselves, because if you're looking for something on that extreme progressive metal side, this is an album to go for. At 33, almost near the end, and I can stop talking so much, is Ray Alder with his sophomore album 2. This comes with a lot of pain, because when I first interviewed Ray Alder for the original solo album that he did, he said he did not want to create any more solo music. He wanted to just create music for Fate's Warning. And of course the news came out this year that Jim Matheos does not want to make any new albums for Fate's Warning. So they're basically just going to become a legacy band, playing all the old favorites and everything.
Yeah.
And that didn't sit right with Ray Alder, so he started another prog band called A to Z, and he also has his solo work, which features Michael Abdow, who is, of course, one of the guitarists of Fate's Warning, and also in the list last week, I talked about his magnificent instrumental album, solo album that came out. But this album is emotionally driven progressive rock and metal, which is my favorite aspect of Fate's Warning. The songs are super catchy. catchy, arguably catchier than Fate's Warning at times. Specifically, the last song, Changes. I know that was a favorite of yours off of this album. And yeah, just a fantastic album from start to finish, and really keeps that spirit of Fate's Warning alive, even if they, whether they decide to make new music in the future or they really are done. At least we have Ray Elder's solo music. At 42, just to continue on with the tiers, we have Earn with their sophomore album, A Feast on Sorrow, which is a thematic album about loss, be it band members that have left the band, be it losing relationships with family and friends, be it death, be it dementia. It's all over the map, and it's a real tearjerker of an album.
Yeah.
I'd probably say it's second for my saddest albums of the year, and don't worry, we'll be getting to the saddest album of the year.
But wait, there's more.
But wait, there is more. Of course, the album is mixed, mastered, produced, and signatured by Joe Diampliere of Gojira from his New York City studio, which I didn't realize he moved to America, but I learned that from this album. He has basically been carrying Earn on Gojira's shoulders, like all the touring that they've been doing this year. Earn has been the support act, and they have grown exponentially, and I'm very happy to see that. I got the tots of the band for the first album, which was a lot more of a fun album. It was a dark album, but it was more fun. You got to hear a lot of like Opeth and Nevermore moments. This is a lot doomier and more sludgy to really match the tone of the album, because, you know, it's like it's hard to talk about dementia and not have it just be brooding, for example. But if you're looking for something that you need some tissues for, this is the album. And of course, at number 31, continuing on with the sadness once again, in the longest song, or the longest album title of the year for the top 100, is Woe Unto Me with Along the Meandering Ordeals, Reshape the Pivots of Harmony. This is a funeral doom metal with a little bit of death doom thrown in there, at least musically anyways. All the songs are well over 10 minutes in length, predominantly clean vocals, which is usually a funeral doom standard, is to have all clean vocals. But it's a little aggressive as well too. Like, there's some moments that you really don't expect in a funeral doom album to happen. There's a lot of great keyboard moments that go on, time shifting. There's a lot of cool stuff going on here. Not enough people are talking about them, especially those that I know enjoy funeral doom are not talking about this album, and hopefully that can change, because this album is fantastic, and I'm amazed it didn't hit the top 30, but it just didn't happen this time around. And there's 20 albums. I'm gonna take a little bit of a break. You're gonna go first because I've been talking so much. And let's talk about how you came together with this top 30. Like, what went into making this list for you?
So, after the first half of the year, I made my top list of the first half of the year. And then I kind of added on albums ever since then that have been of interest to me. And then I just kind of did a lot of listening one weekend, and, well, beyond the weekend too, but I really settled into it one weekend and kind of put things in more of an order, narrowed it down to 30, and then I've been having a couple debates ever since then with placements of a few of them, but I finally got it all settled as of this morning.
No, are you happy with the way the list is?
I am.
Is there any last minute changes?
No changes. I will say a lot of the albums in the 20s could easily change around.
Interchangeable.
They're pretty interchangeable, but once it gets down into the teens and single digits, then we're pretty set.
Anything for like honorable mentions or anything, or you just want to stick to the top 30? I mean, you did mention Oriad.
Yeah. Not as far as albums. There were a couple singles that came out. Number one from Bloody Hammers. What's his name? Anders, thank you. His singles were amazing this year. Also, Van Giersbergen. Not Diane. Van Giersbergen. Yes.
Diane!
Her singles were amazing this year, too. So hopefully she'll have an album out as well soon. But
well, that is the plan. It should be out next year.
Yeah, but I did want to shout those out, though. But all right. I'll get underway then.
All right. Well, do you want to go first, or should I go first?
Whatever you want.
I don't have a preference.
You know what? You go first, because yours are technically already out there.
Yeah,
So mine's more of a surprise.
All right, that is fair.
Okay.
All right, at number 30, we got Enforcer with Nostalgia. After the lukewarm response, according to the band, of the previous album Zenith, where they decided to go into different territories, apparently the fan base did not want that, and they just wanted the straight ahead 80s speed metal sound.
Yes.
And that's exactly what nostalgia is, and I imagine that's why they call it nostalgia as well.
That makes sense.
Like,
Makes sense.
if you love Enforcer for the 80s speed metal, heavy metal, and a sappy ballad or two,
Yeah.
this is that album. And it is some of the best that they've done with this. I really hope that this wasn't done just to appease the fans.
Yeah.
I hope that they actually wanted to make this music, which I'm
Yeah.
a little afraid of.
Yeah.
But it feels sincere, at least to me, and I hope that sincerity continues on.
Yeah.
So you're number 30.
My number 30, formerly on your list, is Mr. Ronnie Atkins with Trinity.
I'm surprised this wasn't higher, honestly.
Let me get into it. So I love Ronnie. I'm a newer fan to Ronnie. Like, I really discovered, I knew of Ronnie before, but I really discovered him with Nordic Union, because Nordic Union is just so good. So good. But then that led me back into listening more of Ronnie's older work and stuff like that. Pretty Maids, of course, stuff like that. He has such an amazing voice, and he is such an inspiration. Like you talked about with everything he's going through, the fact that he is like still just full speed ahead, putting out as much music as he can. And not only that, but like writing albums like this that is so just inspirational and heartwarming and positive. It's ridiculous. The only reason this one didn't go higher is because it's just not one that I've gone back to as much. It absolutely has meaning when I listen to it, but I haven't listened to it as much as the other ones repeatedly, I should say.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But it is a really good listen.
Yeah.
Number 29, I have Tegmentum with Evolvement. This is almost a debut album, but it's also not at the same time. This originally started off as a one-man instrumental project, but now in this new chapter of the band, it's a full-scale band. With clean vocals, screams, growls, everything going on. It hits on the technical death metal side, the very melodic progressive death metal side, kind of has outer space kind of feel behind it. If you love the language era of the Contortionist or Exoplanet, specifically Exoplanet, if you like the Autotheist from The Faceless, this is the kind of album and band that you should really get into, because there's so many great vocal moments that happen throughout. The musicianship's absolutely flabbergasting for what they're able to accomplish. Even though they are considered tech death, I don't hear tech death in this.
Yeah.
And those are my favorite kind of bands, because I don't just like musical wankery anymore. I like music with substance, and if you're looking for something a bit more on the extreme side, but actually has substance behind it, Tegmentum is a band that's absolutely worth it.
Awesome. My number 29 is Battleborn. Blood, Fire, Magic, and Steel. I love me some amazing power metal, and I love me some Skyrim, so you combine those two things, I mean, what more could you possibly ask for? But it's just so catchy, it's so fun, it just puts you into a good mood when you listen to it, so I absolutely love it.
And you haven't put them on and played Skyrim yet, which
Not yet, no.
You really need to do that.
It
Adds to the atmosphere.
I'm sure it does.
In the ambience.
The ambience.
Number 28 for me is The Ongoing Concept with Again. One of two Redheaded Stepchild albums that make the list this year for the top 100, and most specifically in the top 30. This is more of like a post-hardcore progressive metal, almost pop-punk kind of band at the same time. Like, they wrote a concept album about the highs and lows of life and just continuously going through it again and again. Yeah. The very beginning of the album and the very end of the album are the same, so you can listen to it again and again and it feels like you're in a cycle.
Nice.
There's a lot of like dancey, jumpy riffs that happen through it. There's some crazy proggy moments that happen throughout it. The vocals are a little niche as well. Either you're gonna like the vocals or you're gonna hate them or think they're okay, but I always gotta steal that. But this is if you're looking for something a little more of the second to third wave metalcore bands, the stuff that came out after bands like Killswitch Engage and stuff, this might be up your alley.
My number 28 is Dirtian, which I may be pronouncing that completely wrong, We're the New Era Part 4. Again, another power metal band. They are out of Italy. Just super.
What a year for Italian power metal this year. There were so many power metal bands that came out of Italy this year that put out fantastic albums.
There were a lot. Just really solid stuff. Super catchy. Just amazing. Amazing.
So glad to hear that. And speaking of stuff like that, well, at least used to be power metal. At 27, I got Syra with the Vertigo Trigger. Of course, Jake E, formerly of Amaranth.
Yes.
And you got Alex of Camelot in here. And of course, Jesper from formerly of In Flames.
Yeah.
This is the band's third album. And I've said it many times on the show, but I think it bears repeating again. I feel like this is the most solid album the band has done to date. Their second album was probably the most emotional, and the first album was probably the heaviest. But this is like the perfect combination of hard rock and heavy metal combined, where I feel like if you only listen to top 40 rock radio, you'll find something to appreciate about Syra. If you only listen to like the heavier stuff like In Flames or Camelot, stuff that you would never hear on top 40 radio, but you want something with more of like a pop essence, you'll find something to appreciate about this band. And yeah, I feel like it's just a perfect culmination of what they've been trying to do since they started.
Yeah, they are super solid stuff. My number 27 is Ronnie Romero, Too Many Lies, Too Many Masters.
Ooh.
So Ronnie, he's one of my favorite vocalists ever and day. Like, he has just such an amazing voice. There's really not much he can do that I don't like, so this one is bound to make my list. But it's a good album. It's a good album. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm amazed this one didn't make it into my top 100.
Yeah.
I guess just for me, it was a little more rock and roll than it was metal.
Yeah,
Like, it really has
fair.
like I mean, he's also the singer of Rainbow, which is one thing to really consider, and it felt like a Rainbow album, kind of.
That makes sense. That makes
like,
sense.
it was more of a rock than a metal album, which is probably why it didn't make it, but it's a very, very good album.
Yeah.
26, much to your dismay. We got Haken with Fauna, a thematic album where every song has to do with a different kind of animal, but also is a different emotion that people go through. Of course, to you, it's all progressive wankery.
It is. It is.
To me, I find a lot more substance in this. The last couple albums were very, very metal. This one kind of goes back to the progressive rock, more experimental side of the band. That's not to say that there isn't heavy moments on here. There's a lot of great heavy and metal moments that go on here, but they just kind of threw everything at the wall and saw what would stick. And I think they nailed it. Not my favorite Haken album, but I thoroughly appreciate what they did on this album, and I know you despise it.
Yes, I do. So moving onward, my number 26 is Excalion with Once Upon a Time. I've been a long time Excalion fan. I feel like they definitely started off a little bit more power metal, whereas now they're just a little bit more straight up melodic metal, and of course out of
Kinda
Finland.
like Good Guy.
Kind of. Out of Finland, of course, because, most of my bands come out of Finland. But just really catchy, really enjoyable, clean, but still heavy music, and it's just so good. It's so good.
Yeah, I did get to listen to this. I did at least get one full listen to it, but I didn't think one full listen was enough to really fairly rank it compared to everything else that I heard this year, but it is some fantastic stuff.
It is.
Yeah, I really appreciate how they do have more of that hard rock tinge to it now, but they didn't lose sight of who they are.
Yeah.
Which I really appreciate. At 25, I have Black Braid with Black Braid 2. It's funny because their debut album came out last year, and they already have their sophomore album out this year.
Yes.
But it is Native American folk metal, as I like term it. I call it that genre. I don't know if anyone else does, but I think it's very appropriate. For anyone that is kind of confused by that, Black Braid does black metal with a lot of Native American instrumentation and a lot of great aspects of it. Of course, the front man of the band is Native American, and he wanted to show his roots with that, but also show his love and joy of black metal. Combined, it's one of the best black metal albums of the year. If you're looking for something on the heavier side of folk metal, kind of like Egelok, but much heavier, Black Braid is the band for you. And I know that was maybe they made it, maybe they didn't, but do you have any thoughts about Black Braid, or do you just want to go to the next one?
My number 25 My number 25 is Galnerius, Between Dread and Valor. Of course, another amazing power metal band out of Japan, and out with another killer album. They have such a distinct sound to them, I feel like, and it's no different with this album, and I love it.
Can I just say right now,
Yeah.
kind of going the sideway, I appreciate that over the years,
Yeah.
you're going, that you went from just saying, yeah, I like it, it's good, to actually having reasoning behind it. I love hearing that now.
I don't have as many words as you do with these albums. That is fully easy to see for any listeners, but like, I'm a little bit better than I was before.
Well, before you would have said like, coming in at 25 is Galerius with their new album. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, that would have been it before. So I appreciate how much you've grown.
I'm trying desperately, but I am not good at like summarizing music. I will say that.
It's okay, but to me, you're getting better all the time.
Well, thank you.
And it's very fun to go back and forth like this.
Yes.
24, I have Keep of Calcium with Catharsis, the band's return album after 9 years. It is their most soul-ripping album the band has ever done. All you have to do is just listen to one of their songs, and the way he sings, it feels like that scene in The Simpsons where Bart's babysitter and neighbor just like reaches into Bart's chest and grabs the heart and you won't be needing this, and then like kicks it into the garbage. Like, his vocal delivery is one of the best of 2023 with how heart-wrenching it is. Add on top of that the extreme use of extreme blackened death metal that's on display. Fully orchestrated, great synthesizers going on throughout, absolutely insane blast beats, and everything that's choreographed and composed on this album. It is one of the most thought-provoking and best albums of the extreme side in 2023.
My number 4 is Twilight. Did I say 4? I think 24 anyways.
Yeah, 24.
Okay. Is Twilight Force at the heart of Wintervale.
I see through 4 Force, but
Yes.
go ahead.
You touched on this one earlier in one of your earlier lists, but they are just such a fun band. They are probably the funnest band out there, I would say. Again, power metal, but just full on like living it, like dressing up like elves and such, and just having a grand old time. And it's great. Like, there's nothing wrong with having fun music, and people who think otherwise are stupid and need to stop listening to music.
Yeah, and this is just one of those albums where it almost gets in the black metal territory. It has Caribbean music into it. It has video game inspired stuff going on. And it's all fun. Alessandro Conti, of course, of one of the 25 iterations of Rhapsody, is doing his sophomore album with the band.
Yes.
Just absolutely fun music. And
Exactly.
I'm so happy they're finally touring next year in the States. Unfortunately, it's with Glory Hammer.
Yeah.
Which, that's a kind
Tug
of a...
collar. Tug collar.
Oh. My 23 is Velian with Spectacle of Tragedy. Yeah. One of the best straight up gothic doom metal bands of the year. If you love the heavy side, not necessarily the death doom side, but if you love like the heavier albums from Paradise Lost, you need to check out Velian. Of course, they don't sound exactly the same, but you can hear a lot of Nick Holmes in the vocals, the delivery of the orchestration that goes on behind it. Again, another example of how the gothic doom side is still going strong.
Yeah.
And one of the best albums of 2023 for that. And it's super catchy, super heavy. And if you love Paradise Lost, you're doing yourself a disservice for not checking out Velian.
My number 23 is Ex Mortis with Necrophony.
Ooh.
I mean, as you touched on in one of your previous lists.
Last week,
yes. They're just such an amazing mix of kind of that neoclassical sound, but then that harder aggression sound too. And they're just amazing. They're very, very talented. And I love neoclassical music. So anything with neoclassical tinges, I will like.
So how does this one hold up compared to the other albums?
Ooh, I don't know yet. I haven't thought about it in that context, but it's great, I think.
Yeah, I was curious about that because half the band quit.
Yeah.
Before the making of this album.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they lost any ground with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's more or less what I was getting at. Because,
Yeah.
it's like, when you lose half of a band, that could really change things up.
Absolutely.
But I feel like Ex Mortis is still going as strong as they ever have.
They absolutely are.
22, I have the sophomore album album from Twin Temple with God Is Dead. A kind of surprise release because there was like no word of this album coming out until I found out the day before. But it is just another great half hour of satanic doo-wop. But they start to include some other great moments on here as well. Like there's more of a Latin influence sometimes. They have some bossa nova grooves going on there, samba moments.
Yeah.
Like it kind of hits like all these different sides of 50s music. It's not just completely doo-wop, but it is a doo-wop album, of course.
Yeah.
And when you can have a song like Let's Have a Satanic Orgy and make it as fun and as evil as it is,
Yes.
I'm in for a good time.
Yeah.
And remember, they are coming to the Varsity Theater next year.
They are.
Which I think would be really fun to go see.
It would be.
And I know you've wanted to see them for a long time.
That is true. They didn't quite make my list.
What?
I know.
What happened?
I thoroughly enjoyed this album, but I really
expected this like in the top 5.
But again, this isn't an album that I've gone back and listened to. So, and it's not.
Maybe it's because it's not fully WAP.
Well, like I love the doo-wop part of it, and like I enjoyed it when I first listened to it, but I haven't gone back to it, and it's not like an album that has like deep meaning for me either. So
how could it not? It's Satan. It's 50s music.
I mean, I love 50s music, but lyrically, there's it's fun, but it's not like something that I'm like, yeah, this is gonna get me through the day.
I don't even know who you are anymore, Goth Girl.
Goth girl. Okay, my number 22 is Mystic Prophecy with Hell Riot. Kind of like you, like I had never really given them a chance until this album, and oh boy, I should have because this is so good. It's power metal, but it's like heavier and it just grabs you. It grabs you and it doesn't let you go. So it's so good.
Yeah, it's super heavy. It's super catchy. Gus G was a part of this band for a long period of time.
Yeah.
As well. Of course, he's been a part of so many different European metal bands.
That is true.
But of course, obviously, his biggest one being Firewind.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a huge part of Mystic Prophecy in the beginning. If you want to listen to heavier power metal and you're like me and you can't listen to Iced Earth anymore, give Mystic Prophecy a chance.
Oh, so true.
Because it's a catchier version.
It is.
My 21 is Deadly Carnage with Endless Blue. This is the perfect gateway album for people who want to get into black metal but don't like black metal vocals. Because the music is pure, unadulterated black metal and black gaze, but it's all soaring, clean vocals. One of my favorite vocal deliveries of 2023 with the highs and lows that go on throughout it. If you like the heavier sides of Alcest or Lantlos or even newer bands like Death Heaven and Vatnat Viscar, you will find something to appreciate about this album. The band has just like this unique way of making the music so emotionally driven.
Yeah.
And it's just like really good soundtrack style music, which I truly, truly love.
Yeah.
When I put them on the list, the band could not have been more grateful for me talking about them and ranking them so high, which is exactly why I do the top 100 all the time. It makes me so happy to be able to show off a band like Deadly Carnage, which with a name like that, you would think they're kind of like a grindcore band, maybe a brutal death metal band, but no, they're one of the lightest sounding bands in the almost that black metal scene, but again, all clean vocals, and if that's what scares you off black metal, check out Deadly Carnage.
My number 21 is Evermore in Memoriam.
Oh yes.
So this is some melodic metal out of Sweden. It's like heavy, but it's really beautiful, like really pretty lyrics or vocals, I should say. And looking at the band, you wouldn't expect this sound out of them at all.
Not at all.
They look like a biker gang almost. But like it's just this beautiful melodic metal, and it's amazing. Like you listen to it.
Yeah, it is well worth your time. They are a fantastic band.
Yeah.
I know they didn't make my top 100.
Yeah.
But again, when you have over 200 albums that you got to slice down in half,
It happens.
There's some bands that I really wish would have made the top 100 that did not. My number 20 is Insomnium with Anno 1696. I know this did not make your top 30, unfortunately.
It didn't.
What was your reasoning for that?
I liked it, but I just didn't go back to it enough, and I don't know, it just didn't quite make it. But I did think it was good. I mean, I just didn't listen to it enough and didn't get back to it enough.
I can almost understand why. It's a horror concept album about the year 1696 and has to deal with witches and monsters and, of course, Sakis Tola from Rotting Christ makes an appearance on this album as well, which I thoroughly enjoy. But the album is, of course, very much in that Finnish melodeath sound, but what makes it truly stand out is the fact that they kind of spread their wings musically on here. There's some more doomy moments on here. It almost gets into black metal elements on here. The story, which I got to do an interview for Insomnium, so I got sent the actual short story for the album, and I got to read it and thoroughly enjoy the story, so I know a little bit more about it and the twists and turns that you just don't see coming lyrically. I also got the 3 bonus songs, which just came out like a month or so ago. I believe I had those since the beginning of the year, so I was able to see a little more context of how everything went, and I feel like it's one of the strongest Insomnium albums. I don't know where it would rank, but it's a very, very strong album.
Yeah. My number 20 is Winger with 7.
Only at 20.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've said it before on the show. I love me some Winger. I love me some Kip. This album is really freaking good.
That's why I'm surprised to see it at 20.
I know, but there's a lot of good music here. This one is really great. It has one of my favorite songs of the year, which maybe we'll do that at some point, what our favorite songs were this year.
Well, I already talked about my favorite song of the year.
Well, yes, but your other top, But it's really good. Even if you don't like Winger, go and listen to it, because this is a lot heavier than a lot of their previous stuff, so it's a different side to them, I would say.
I need to stress this because I feel like it's never been stressed enough.
Yeah.
Winger is more than 17.
Yes.
They're more than Heading for a Heartbreak.
They're more than Stewart.
Yes. They're more than the Metallica documentary where Lars throws a dart at his at his head and when he puts Winger's head on a dartboard and shoots at it. They're an actually great, heavy, kind of glam, progressive metal band. And I know you probably don't like the term progressive, but there's a lot of progressive elements to Winger. And they know how to write some fantastic songs. And of course, Kip is an amazing composer as well. He won a Grammy for his compositions.
Yes.
So, obviously, it can be a little tug-collaring looking at the lyrics of 17 nowadays.
Yeah.
But they're more than that.
Yes.
And he's never acted on the song.
No.
So let's get that out of the way.
Yes.
And also getting things out of the way, it's time to make some anuses clench for the heavy metal side. I purposely put this in here, not just because I like it, but I really just wanted to infuriate people. A band I've loved for 20 years now, Story of the Year, coming in at number 19 with Tear Me to Pieces.
Yes.
The band's kind of return album, as the last couple albums were fine, and they sound just like Story of the Year.
Yeah.
This album, though, I feel like they really hit everything right. Like, it's like a modernized version of Page Avenue, but it has a little more electronic moments going on, a little bit more of the down-tuned 8-string, kind of genty guitar as well, but it doesn't lose any of the emotion behind it. There's some songs that really hit me pretty friggin' hard on this album, and of course they also have the very cheesy nostalgia song 2005, which the first time I heard it I did not like it, but on subsequent listens I've grown to have an attachment to it.
Yeah.
Which is funny, why didn't they write it about 2003? Why 2005? But maybe it just sounded better when it was rhyming.
Rhymes.
Yeah.
It rhymes and you know it.
Right. It rhymes and you know it rhymes, admit it. But I just think it's a really good song, and if you love that MTV2 era in 2003 and you're looking for that Story of the Year emo post-hardcore alternative metal sound, they brought it back in 2023.
Or if you played, was it Tony Hawk back in the day?
Oh yeah, Tony Hawk.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think there's any songs as heavy as Divide and Conquer on this album, but it kind of gets close.
Yeah. My number 19 is Novaria with Ascent.
Ooh.
So going off my hate of the term prog, technically they're a prog metal band, but for people like me out there, don't worry, it's not that wanky prog. It's honestly, like, if I just listened to it, I wouldn't even call it prog. It's just like melodic metal to me. It's very, very pretty, very full, and just pretty. And I said pretty 5 times. That's okay.
So it's pretty.
It's pretty. It is, but it's great. It's like easy to listen to. It just warms your heart.
Yeah. I talked about this before, but in case you missed it, it has on this particular album, it has a very Symphony X feel behind it.
Yes.
Which reminds me of one of our earlier shows where we decided, is Symphony X more of a prog band or a power metal band?
Yeah.
Novaria is kind of the same way.
Yeah.
Where, it's like you hear prog elements behind it, but it's very power metal as well. And sometimes just straight up like heavy metal, melodic metal stuff.
Yeah.
And again, another fantastic band from Italy.
Yes.
Like, it's been a great year for it.
It has.
My number 18 is the band Wayfarer with with American Gothic. This album is another North American folk metal band that made the list this year, and instead of going with the Native American sound, they go much more into like the 1800s style of like country and Americana. One song at the very end has some piano behind it. Not piano, piano. So, it sounds like you're in an old Western bar and you hear some do 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 do, the kind of stuff that goes on behind it.
Oh.
But it's also drenched in some black and death metal as well. It also features members of the band Blood Incantation, which I never would have expected to be a part of Wayfarer.
Yeah.
But the band has been working towards this sound for a long time. They started off as more of like a traditional kind of folk metal band, and then they really found their sound with American Gothic and incorporating the American folk behind it. I really enjoy this album. I played it back for 3 random songs. I played one of their songs, and you said that you oddly liked it, so I don't know if you've kept up with it since then. I'm assuming not.
I haven't.
But yeah, that's all I got for that.
Okay. My number 18 is Black Reed with Black Reed 2.
Speaking of the North American folk metal.
Yes. So I'm very particular about the kind of black metal I like. It either needs to have a symphonic tinge to it or a folk tinge to it, and even then it needs to be of a specific type, I would say. And this band does it. They are just such a unique blend, and I thoroughly enjoy them.
We'll go a little bit deeper on that. I mean, like, obviously you got the hots for the lead singer of the band.
Oh, he is not hard to look at all. Yeah.
And of course we were thinking about going to see them, but of course we stayed for one of the lesser AEW pay-per-views instead.
We did. Although I'm hoping they come back for like a headlining set at some point.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like they're too big not to, unless something happens to derail them. It's gonna happen. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy them. At 17, I have Lord of Shadows with Echoes of Yore, featuring past and present members of Draconian and My Dying Bride doing guest vocals on here. It is one of the most tragic, romantic, funeral death doom albums I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, it's drenched in that death doom sound, but you got the clean vocals from Draconian, you have the harsh vocals of My Dying Bride combined together for this really tragic story. But, if you love that gothic style, this is a band for you. And the songwriter of the band is actually in a relationship, the ex-singer of Draconian, so I imagine that's why it kind of has that little more of an emotional attachment behind it. But he's not a singer, so when you can't sing or growl or scream, you get Aaron Stainthorpe of My Dying Bride to do it. And it just, again, it's like Beauty and the Beast in a sense, but much darker and a very, very underrated album. And I hope more people check it out.
Yeah. My number 17 is Recite the Cynic with their self-titled album. Of course, as you talked about them in a previous episode, this is with Stefan from Falconer, going completely different direction.
Going from black metal to power folk metal to...
Gosh, how do you even describe it? It's a mix of some kind of electronic but also kind of metal and just a lot of different things, honestly. Viking-esque kind of. It's just such a unique mix, but it just hit right. Like, it's so fun to listen to, and it's just so unique. I love it.
And you said it would be like good workout music.
Yeah, I
remember that the first time that
I think so, because it reminds me of the Electro Viking or whatever, the Dancing Viking on YouTube, whatever he was back in the day.
Oh, yes. Number 16, I have Host with 9. This might actually surprise you. I imagine that you thought
16?
I would probably... Yeah. 11. But I digress. Nick Holmes and Gregor McIntosh of Paradise Lost, they wanted to celebrate the middle era of the band, where they're a little more alternative rock, they're a little more of the goth wave, 80s kind of dance influence, industrial side of the band. They can't really do that in the current era of Paradise Lost. When I talked to Nick Holmes, he said it's because they would have to hire a keyboardist to do it right, and they just can't afford to do that. So, in that time, they created Host, where it's just the two of them being able to create that middle era of Paradise Lost, but updated. Some of the songs sound like pure 80s goth wave. Some of it sounds like brand new 2023 gothic dance music, and everything in between. And of course, the bonus version of the album has a cover of A Flock of Seagulls with Iran. In probably the darkest version of that song I've ever heard.
For sure.
It almost feels like a horror version of it, which I really appreciate. But all clean vocals, all electronic beats, Gregor doing some fantastic goth riffs over top of it, and of course Nick Holmes with his impeccable clean vocals.
Yes.
This was my number one album for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And then some stuff happened, and it's still in the top 20. And Host actually shared my top 20, thanking me for putting them in the top 20.
Nice.
So you don't have to get as upset. They're happy to even just be in it. So
My number 16 is Among Ruins with Land of the Black Sun.
I did not think this was gonna hold up for you.
Yeah, so this was some good melodic metal, death metal out of Greece. Just that perfect mix of harshness and clean and just amazing. I love me some good melodic death metal, and this is a new one to my batch, and now I'll be continuing listening to it.
Yeah, they are a fantastic band, and had I listened to it more, it would be higher up.
Yeah.
But I'm still glad I got to include them where I did, and yeah, just a fantastic album, and
Yes.
the best that they've done so far, in my opinion. Number 15, I have Orphans of Dusk with Spleen. This is the debut album from this Australian-New Zealand band, which is that perfect gothic doom sound. It sounds like Typo Negative meets Woods of Ypres.
Yeah.
And it's a dark album, all clean vocals for the most part. It's just one of those like heavy albums that you expect come out of nowhere. Like the choruses sound like Woods of Ypres, the verses sound like Typo Negative, which is right up my alley. If you're looking for something on that heavier side of gothic metal, Orphans of Dusk just hits that to perfection.
Yeah.
And when you have a song like I'm Going to Haunt You When I Die, that kind of gives you an idea of what to go into.
You know. My number 15 is Lord of Shadows from with Echoes of You.
Your.
What was that?
Your. You said you.
Oh, whoops, sorry. My apologies. Yeah, I mean, you pretty much described it spot on earlier, but it's really just a gothic love letter of an album. That's what it is, and it's perfect, and I love Draconian, so having vocalists from there is just perfection.
What about My Dying Bride?
I've never gotten into them, but I absolutely enjoy them on this album, so.
Will this maybe push you into checking him out?
Maybe.
Because he does clean vocals too.
Yeah.
He's not just the screamer. He has some of the saddest clean vocals you hear.
Well, there's
It's
that.
very emotionally driven.
Yeah.
Number 14, I have Redemption with I Am the Storm. The sophomore album for Tom England and Vikram Shankar. Yes, Vikram's back, and this is not the last appearance of him either. And it's not the last appearance of Tom England either. But the band kind of shifted when those two joined the band because they were always a very dark progressive metal band. But now the band feels like they have more color in their palette.
Yeah.
It's not just black and gray going on. Like there's other colors going on musically. Even some more positive moments that are going on. Yeah, Tom England singing positively is not something that you would necessarily expect. But he does it with so much sincerity, and Vikram is such an amazing composer and keyboard. Everything that he does. I'll gush about him for days upon days. And of course the rest of the band are no slouches either, having been there since the beginning and stuff like that. But yeah, this is just one of the best Redemption albums. When I did my Backwards Marathon series, I gave this album an S tier rank, and I still feel that way. It's one of the best Redemption albums.
Nice. My number 14 is Grim Heart with Hellish Hunt. They're just such a good mix of melodic, death, power, a little bit of hope, just everything. They're everything I love combined. So, and it's one of those albums that just, it's aggressively grabs you, but in not like in almost a clean way in a way. It's not like just like annoyingly grabbing you. It's like, it's solid. It's solid.
And you wouldn't expect that from Hungary either.
Yeah.
And it's also a debut album as well. Like,
Yup.
they wrote something this good on their debut.
I know.
So what's going to happen next?
Exactly.
That's got me excited. And speaking of stuff that kind of has that hellish feel behind it, at number 13, I have Satan's Fall with Destination Destruction. One of the last albums that I was able to put into the top 100, and I'm so glad that I did.
Yeah.
This is just like a very aggressive 80s hard rock, glam, and black metal combined together.
Yeah.
Which is an odd combination, but also remember that's what Merciful Fate is as well. Like
Yeah.
they have glam riffs, they have black metal riffs, they have that horror aesthetic. And this concept album, the band's sophomore album, is just a fantastic display. The vocalist has a very unique sound to his voice. It's very raspy, but it works so perfect for the music. So you're not going to get those King Diamond falsettos on this album, which is just fine. And of course, I keep bringing up King Diamond and Merciful Fate because Satan's Fall is one of the biggest Merciful Fate songs.
Yeah.
Which is where, obviously, you hear that from. sitcom. But the songs are so catchy, like heavy metal, speed metal, glam, black, everything that you'd be looking for in that 80s aesthetic.
Yeah.
And in 2023. And I know you're not going to say much else about this one right now. I just have a feeling.
Am I? Or am I? Because my number 13 is also Satan's Fall.
Oh! I thought this would have been higher.
Had I listened to it more, it might have been higher, possibly. But there's also a lot of other good albums as well that had to be higher. But absolutely love this. Absolutely love it. I mean, you touched on most of it, but it just brings me right back to that 80s feeling that I love, love, love so much. And it's
fantastic. Number 12 in the exact opposite direction is Head with Wings with their sophomore album, Without Intervention. The band has gone through a lot of ups and downs since the release of their debut album, and 2 years ago they were able to release their next EP, but with the help of, again, say it with me, Vikram Shankar.
Yes.
Doing the mixing, mastering, producing, orchestration, keyboards on this album. It's a very alternative progressive rock kind of feel. Like it feels like a mix of like Incubus and Porcupine Tree. If you're looking for something in that realm. It's funny you say that. Or it's funny how you're laughing about that, but it also is very big on non-linear storytelling. Like, all of their songs are connected in some way, shape, or form, but it's not linear. It doesn't go from start to finish. Sometimes it goes back into different parts. It flash forwards. It flashes back. It has a very ethereal kind of feel behind it. And I know it won't be for everyone listening to this. I know it's not for you either, despite Vikram being able to be a part of this. But I just really enjoy this album, and of course, Head with Wings is very near and dear to me because one of their songs is the inspiration for the title of my sideshow, Something Gives.
Yes.
So they're always going to have that attachment to me, and I'm glad to see after all this time that they put out another fantastic progressive album.
Yeah. My number 12 is Ray Alder.
Ooh.
I felt like this one was going to surprise you.
Yeah. It honestly does.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been a huge Faith Warning person. Not because I don't dislike them, but just because I've never listened to them a bunch, you know? Never given them a huge amount of time.
I keep telling you to.
I know, but seeing them live and then you playing for me, I've definitely realized that I do enjoy them. I just have never taken the time with them. But this album is absolutely amazing. It's very emotional. It very, like, just grabs your heart and pulls it all over the place. And his voice is amazing, and it's just great.
And I just hope that means that you'll check out the other Ray Alder stuff that's out there, the other Fates Warning stuff that's out there. There's a lot of great stuff.
Absolutely.
My number 11, again going in a completely different direction, especially from Head with Wings, is Cattle Decapitation with Terracite. Although it is another concept album, but this one is a sci-fi story of like these insect ant type creatures that take over the planet Earth and our reactions to them, which is blaming each other until we die, which is exactly what would happen if we got invaded. We would just be pointing fingers at each other, not doing anything to survive.
It's true.
We would just be slaughtered because of that. This is actually the first Cattle Decapitation album where you said, yeah, I kind of like that. Which would never, in my imagination, I thought would happen. But it's because they do things so differently on this album. It's not just death grind, it's not just technical death metal and progressive death metal, but they start to include synthesizers and keyboards and so much more clean vocals and ballady type moments, which you would never expect in a band like this. And it actually caught your attention, which I was surprised by. I know it didn't make your top 30, but
did not.
I love the fact that it, it's like, I kind of like this. The fact that it even did that.
That's true. My number 11 is Eclipse with Megalomanium, which I keep on thinking is Megalomart every time I see it. Like you touched on earlier, they're one of the best rock bands that are out there now in this day and age, and they're so good. They should be much bigger than they are. I love...
Well, they're big over in Sweden.
Well, right, but here... and of course I love the work he does with Nordic Union as well, but it's such a good album. It's such a fun album. It's the rock that you want.
Now, how does this compare to other Eclipse albums that you've heard?
I'm trying to debate that. This one might be my favorite, but
really,
possibly.
That is definitely not the consensus online.
You know what? I don't care what other people think, though.
right. And with that said, we get into the top 10 here.
Yes.
Starting off with my top 10 is the debut album from the Anchorette with It All Begins With Loneliness. A very progressive rock, progressive metal, almost progressive death metal album. Just think of King Crimson meets Opeth meets Pain of Salvation and so many different other elements into it. And it just gripped me from the beginning. I love everything about this album. It's one of the most unique prog albums I've heard in quite some time. And over the years, I've kind of stopped enjoying prog as much as I used to.
Yeah.
I know you've noticed that over the years.
Yeah.
That I used to be way bigger into it.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, I still show some love to it when bands are doing it right. And this is a band that actually does do it right.
Yeah.
And they've been very supportive of me ever since I talked about them in the top 10 albums of the month when they appeared. And they were very, very appreciative of being able to be on this top 10.
Yeah.
Saying some very heartfelt things, how this means more than other publications, giving them praise.
Yeah.
So, it's just like, that was really near and dear to me, and I'm
That's
glad
awesome.
to support good bands and support a fantastic album like this. And as you can imagine, with an album title like It All Began With Loneliness, not the cheeriest of albums, but it is a fantastic album, nonetheless.
Yeah. My number 10 is Story of the Year, Tear Me to Pieces.
It's not number one.
It's not number one, but it is my top 10. Yeah, I mean, like you hit on it earlier, like it just takes me back to the Page Avenue, only an updated version of it, and they haven't missed a beat in these years.
Feels just like 2005.
That's right. It's just so catchy. It makes me want to play Tony Hawk and just listen to this and enjoy life.
Well, you could play Tony Hawk on your Switch.
I could.
Because the remakes of 1 and 2 are available to buy.
Have we noticed that all roads lead back to the Switch?
Because I want you to play your Switch. It's just collecting dust.
Oh, goodness, yes.
But yeah, as I mentioned, and I hope anuses get puckered from us talking about Story of the Year, and I really hope it makes the heaviest of music fans listening to this upset that we talk about Story of the Year.
Yeah.
It just makes me so happy.
Oh, yeah.
My number 9 is Ineana with Shatter and Fall. This is the sophomore album from this Texas melodic gothic death doom band, with the seal of approval from Wolfheart, who he actually appears a couple times on this album and took the band over on Europe for touring. This album is fantastic. I love everything about it. It just gets so catchy in the right spots. The keyboards and synthesizers are used in the most magnificent of ways. It's so dark, it's so heavy. The clean vocals are magnificent. Everything about this album just rules. I know you really weren't paying attention to it. I mean, there was a couple moments you kind of liked on it, but I think if you actually sat down and listened to it, especially with how much you love Paradise Lost, you'll find something to appreciate about this album.
That is true. Speaking of Paradise Lost, my number 9 is Host.
What a segue.
I know, right?
And that was not planned, I swear.
Was not planned.
I have no idea what's coming up on our list. She's hiding it from me.
Yes, of course it features my man, who is the best man in the world.
What's his name?
That's why I can't say it, because
I know. I just wanted to throw you under the bus there.
Call
Nick
me
Holmes.
out, Nick Holmes, thank you. Oh, I'm bad on the spot.
I know. That's why you can't do game shows.
I know. I couldn't. I'd be terrible on it. But no, like you said, it harkens back to mid era Paradise Lost, and I love me some Paradise Lost. Like we said in previous episodes, I'm a newer fan of Paradise Lost in the past couple of years here, but
yeah, Obsidian was the album that actually gained your attention.
Yes.
Despite years of me trying to get you into the band.
Yes. But I absolutely love them now. Nick has such an amazing voice, and it's just so good.
Now, how does Host feel compared to the Paradise Lost albums? Like, is it like in the upper part, mid part, lower part?
Mid to upper.
Mid to upper?
Yeah.
That's completely fair.
Yeah.
All right. My number 8 is Catatonia with Sky Void of Stars. This went from not being from being one of the top albums that I had all year to almost not even making the top 100 because I completely forgot about it to now being in the top 10.
Yes.
My favorite Catatonia album is Last Fair Deal Gone Down because it feels like a culmination of all the different sides of Catatonia except for the Death Doom era, which I know they'll never go back to. But it's got the alternative rock and metal side, they got gothic side, they got progressive side, and of course nowadays they have some more electronic moments that are going on as well. And the reason I bring up that album is because this feels like a 2023 version of Last Fair Deal Gone Down, where they show off all the different sides of what Catatonia is about in the same way. And it's not like previous albums where they all kind of not necessarily sound the same, but they all kind of fit together. This album does too, but again, just like showing showing all the different sides of the band. It's got everything that you love Catatonia for. And of course, and speaking of you, another band that you do enjoy, but you just don't go back and actually check out.
I know.
I mean, you love Paradise Lost.
Yes.
Why not check out Catatonia, who's a part of the Peaceville 3?
I should. I need to. I know. On my to-do list.
Yeah. Which is another way of saying this did not make her top 10.
No, it did not. Sorry. My number 8 is Night Demon with Outsider.
Ooh.
I mean, they're another band that kind of has historically had that kind of 80s throwback sound to them, but this album goes a lot deeper, a lot darker, a lot more emotional, and it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna leave it at that.
I wonder why.
At number 8, I have the band Lunar with their third album, The Illusionist. This is another gut punch of a progressive album for me. It's progressive metal and progressive death metal. It's 8 tracks, but they show 8 different sides of prog in different ways, shapes, and forms. So many guest appearances, too many to mention, and a story that is about an illusionist and a magician that questions all of his life's decisions and whether not only should he keep going with his career path, but if he should even continue to be alive. So, who does that sound like? Of course, this album is not about me. I'm not that egotistical.
Yeah.
But it is an album that I can relate to more than almost anything else this year and in previous years.
Yes.
And of course, I love the music that's going on here. I mean, it's got moments that sound like Sabotage. There's moments that sound like Edge of Sanity. There's moments that sound like Nevermore. There's moments that sound like Opeth and Dream Theater. It's a celebration of prog. It's a celebration of metaphors, and the ending is kind of up to you, whether it's a happy ending or a sad ending, because you can look at it from either way, and you're right.
Yeah.
Because it's so open-ended, but it's a tearjerker of an album. But I'm not sure if you've noticed, but I'm kind of a sucker for those.
You are. My number 7 is Mercenary, soundtrack for the end times.
Ooh.
We've talked about this one in previous episodes, but I absolutely love Mercenary, and they have not missed a beat again. Another band that it's been quite a few years since they had an album out, but they are amazing now. And even though I know some people don't like the current rendition of the band, it's been with them. It's been their rendition for a while now, but
over
still,
a decade.
Yeah, but some people still have a little issue with that, and they're stupid.
Well, to make it more mainstream, that's what a lot of people's problem with Judas Priest is. Despite 3/5 of the band being in the band for over 30 years, they feel like they can't listen to that lineup anymore.
Exactly.
Despite over half of the band being there for longer than some of them have been alive.
Yep.
But,
What's your number 6?
My number 6 is Blackbriar,
Okay.
with their sophomore album, A Dark Euphony. I found this band thanks to you.
Yes, you did. You're welcome.
I forgot to... Well, I was going to give you more praise, but... jerk. I was going to say, I can't remember if it was their EP or their album that you showed me them first, but I instantly fell in love. When their debut album came out, I did not put that up as high as I could have because I just heard it as I was about to make the list.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have felt right, but in recent times, it would have been much, much higher that year.
Yeah.
This one was automatic top 10 when I got it. I love this album. I love the ethereal feeling behind this one, the symphonics, the gothic, more alternative sides, and the part that makes you cringe, the band started because they met each other at a hailstorm show. But Zora has one of the best vocal performances in metal. No one else can sound like her.
Yeah.
And that could be off-putting to some people, but if you really like it, you will really like it. And I love the fact they've gotten so much attention. They're finally coming to the States, opening for Battles, despite that it'll cost about $60 plus all the Live Nation fees that'll be attached to that. So it'll probably be like $300 if we go see them. But this album is amazing from start to finish. They released so many singles from this album before the album came out.
Yeah.
But the B-sides and the singles equally check this album out if you want that symphonic, gothic, alternative metal stuff.
My number 6 is Enforcer with Nostalgia.
I figured this would be in your top 10.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, it's that 80s throwback sound, but they just do it right. They do it so good, and there's nothing I complain about with album at all.
I'm very shocked to see that this was higher than Night, because I didn't hear you talk about this album as much as did Night.
Yeah, well, Night Demon came out earlier, though, too. So I had longer. We listened to that for longer than this one, so.
I guess that's true. You know, but yeah, it is a fantastic album, and I'm glad it made.
Yeah.
My number 5 is Silent Skies with Dormant. This is, again, the duo of Tom England and Vikram Shankar, who also run Silent Skies Productions, which makes video game soundtracks now, which is so friggin' cool. And of course, with all the love and praise that Vikram's getting, like, he works with so many different bands, and he also works on video game soundtracks. He also does so much more. It's just incredible to see all the work that he does. And just like me, he has a lot of mental health struggles, and he's a very huge inspiration to me. The fact that he has felt like he's so worthless, but he has proven throughout the world that he's one of the most magnificent musicians and composers in the world.
Yeah.
So who better to be able to sing over his compositions
Yes.
and to also get some guitar work in there as well than one of the saddest voices in all of metal, Tom England.
Yes.
This is the band's 3rd album, and arguably the lightest album that I have on the entire list, because it's very dark, ambient, soundtrack-ish pop.
Yeah.
It's like, if you think Adele is sad, you have not heard Silent Skies.
Yeah.
And it's just weird hearing Tom England kind of do more acoustic, electronic pop. And this one did not make your top 30, much to my dismay.
No.
But I feel like this is the best album the band has done so far. It feels the most cohesive, it hits the hardest, and they also do 3 covers on this album. Bruce Springsteen's Dancing in the Dark, Iron Maiden, The Trooper, and Linkin Park, Noam.
Yes.
If you ever wanted to hear Tom England sing Bruce Dickinson, Bruce Springsteen, or Chester Bennington, this is the album that you need to check out. But I love this album. It just, it hits the right chords for me.
Yes. My number 5 is Suotana with Ouna. I don't know if I'm saying it right. One.
We are not good at our Finnish, despite how much we love Finnish music. We're not good at pronouncing it.
No, but yes, they are a Finnish melodic death metal band. Right up my alley. Just that perfect mix of clean tones and occasional vocals, but then that harshness as well. And it's just so good. It's so good.
It really is. If you love that melodic melodeath, I mean, like Children of Bodom, Winter Sun, all those type bands, you will find something to appreciate with Sotana.
Yes.
Just a little bit darker.
Yes.
And with all of that said, coming in at number 4, I have my saddest album of the year. It is Death of Giants with Ventasorg. This album is the saddest album of the year, and I've actually grown to become a really good friend with the creator of the band.
Yeah.
The whole concept of this album is from the beginning stages of going to the doctor and finding out that your partner has cancer, and through the next 2 to 5 years, seeing them die.
Oh, yeah.
It's, if you've ever lost anyone in your life, and who hasn't? I mean, everyone is bound to lose someone in their life, and lose multiple in their lives.
Yeah.
And sometimes, sadly, it is from cancer. This, you can hear the heartbreak on this album, the heartache, it's just that perfect mix of like Woods of Ypres, Paradise Lost, just like all the saddest doom bands that you can think of.
Yeah.
But it also is one of the most cathartic albums as well, because I've said it so much when it comes to my mental health struggles. No one gets it more than someone who's been through it.
Yeah.
And when you hear something like this, and say you did lose someone to cancer and you listen to this, it feels good to be heard.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's just like, it's good to know that you're not the only one that has been through all this pain and struggle. And this is one of those albums. And if you need another reason to check this out, there is an Iron Maiden cover of Only the Good Die Young. No, not Billy Joel. Not Billy Joel. It is the Iron Maiden song, Only the Good Die Young. But it just, yeah, again, from like those opening moments to watching your partner die in her deathbed, surrounded by family and friends, it's just, it's a soul crusher. And I don't know what direction Morton's going to be going in next, but from talking to him, he feels like he's kind of more at peace now. Like the album really helped him get through all of the pain and struggle that he's been through.
Yeah.
He actually has a new relationship now. He works on pinball machines, which I think really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
And the second album is in the works, and I can only imagine it's going to be another soul-crushing album.
Yeah. So my number 4 is Kalma, self-titled. I'm a longtime Kalma fan. I love their Finnish melodic swamp metal. This album, I would say this album is like the most emotional album they've put out. It's probably the most diverse too, because I mean they have an actual ballad on this one too. It's very heavy, very emotionally heavy, and it really grips you. It really grips you.
And it's the first album they have a ballad.
Yep, I said that.
Yeah, which just shocks me because I never imagined Kalma would be the kind of band to do ballads.
Yeah, but it's so good.
I love this album.
Yeah.
I just completely forget about it every single time.
I know.
And that's why I didn't make my top 100 because I completely and utterly forgot. Not because of its quality.
Yeah.
Because every time I hear it, it's fantastic. I just forget.
Yeah.
And I feel really bad about it.
What's your number 3?
My number 3 is Svalbard with The Weight of the Mask. This is just another one of those emotional albums that really deals with mental health. The band's previous album, which is just a tearjerker of a title, When I Die, Will I Get Better, has to do with a lot of societal issues and mental health struggles, from sexual assault to feeling like you're never going to be good enough, the beauty standards of the world, so many different things I'll never be able to relate to because I'm a guy. But there is some mental health struggles that I'll always be able to relate to, and I love that album to death.
Yeah.
The Weight of the Mask is much more focused on the mental health side.
Yeah.
And of course, with the title, it's like the weight of that mask that you put on, which is a smile when you're dealing with so much. And putting on that smile can be such a burden when you're around other people, friends, family, co-workers, random people. And it just gets heavier and heavier when you're dealing with stuff and it gets better.
Yeah.
And that's what this album is about.
Yeah.
But unlike other albums, which is pretty much like focused on, I don't know if things will get better, on this one, there's actually glimmers of hope, which I appreciate on this album. It's not just the sadness of mental health.
Yeah.
There is moments where like things can get better, and I need something like that in my life right now.
Yeah.
I'm for the last few months I've been severely struggling.
Yeah.
Even last night I talked about stuff that I don't want to bring everyone down with, but well, you know all too well, and I don't know how you're still with all the stuff that I go through. But musically on this album, it kind of goes all over the map. There's alternative rock, there's black metal, there's post-hardcore.
Yeah.
There's a lot of screams and growls that happen, but there's also very ethereal, clean vocals that happen as well.
Yeah.
I could almost compare it to Blackbriar, but it's not as airy. It's a little deeper, but it's still like more on the higher register clean vocals. I know from your experience, you probably don't remember that well. Like you like when it gets into the clean vocal stuff.
Yeah.
And you appreciate the lyrics and everything that go into it, but I don't know if you've ever listened beyond that.
Right.
But this is just a real gut punch of an album that I think anyone dealing with mental health struggles, or if you just want to understand what people with mental health struggles are going through, to check out.
Yeah. My number 3 is Dark Blood with Illusion of Light.
Oh, I figured Satana was going to be higher than Dark Blood, but
Again, a Finnish melodic metal band, a surprise, surprise. But they're just such like a clean mix with such like heavy keyboards but heavy at the same time. Some really emotionally gripping lyrics again, and just amazing. The Finns know what they're doing.
Yes. I really compare this band a lot to Gladenfold, although they're not the same band.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that feeling behind it where it's got like a lot of power metal elements combined with its melodic death metal, which I truly appreciate. I was glad to discover them this year, and they're a fantastic band.
Absolutely.
And I hope that they continue to be catching on.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 4 albums deep, but you know, that's never too late for them to catch on more and more.
Exactly. Your number 2?
My number 2 is along the lines of what Svalbard did with mental health struggles, and an album that you already talked about in your top 10. It is Mercenary.
Nice.
With Soundtrack to the End Times. Now, again, a lot of people I've seen say, like, this is an okay album, but it's not like their old stuff. It's not their old lineup, it's not their old singer. None of that matters to me.
Yeah.
What matters to me right now is the here and now. And the band has put out what I will say is their best album. The lyrics hit me so hard for what the state of the world is and dealing with mental health struggles, both at the same time. It's so catchy, it's so heavy. More clean vocals than ever before in the band. Which I remember Glenn from Proper saying, like, can you even call this a melodic death metal album because there's so much clean vocals on here?
That's why it's called melodic.
Yeah. And also, there is is still those moments on there
Oh,
as
yeah.
well. That
Yeah.
they're never going to get rid of that. And of course, musically, it's melodic death metal going on as well. Just everything I love about this album, it just hits everything to me.
Yeah.
And no, I don't find it as cheesy as In Flames, as I've seen someone else say.
No.
This is just the right album at the right time for me.
My number 2 is Blackbriar with A Dark Euphony, and the look of shock on your face.
I honestly thought this would be number 1.
So this was one of the debates I had. My number 1, number 2 were going back and forth continuously. I absolutely, if you've listened to any of our previous episodes, you absolutely know how much I love Blackbriar. This album is amazing. There's such an amazing mix of like this fairy tale dark music that's ethereal and beautiful. It's like a fairy singing Zora. I love her voice. Oh, it's the perfect voice. I love everything about this album. But the number 1 just hit me emotionally a little bit more than this one.
Again, I am just utterly flabbergasted
Yeah. Yep.
that was not number 1 for you.
And this one was heavy emotionally too, but number 1 just hit me a little bit more.
Right. Well,
Well, I know what your number 1 is.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
I'm pretty sure I do.
No, you don't.
Okay.
Because I did something I've never done before.
Okay.
Wait, pause the omniverse.
Do you have a tie?
I have a tie.
I thought so because your numbers were off. I was looking at your screen as you were going.
Yeah, I have a tie.
Well, you have to go over both of yours now then.
Yes, I will.
I know one of them then.
You know one of them. And that is, of course, number 1-A is Night Demon with Outsider. Yes, very much in the revival metal, horror metal, 80s metal, speed metal, all of that stuff. But on this album, they went into a much different direction here, where they wanted to basically write out the soundtrack to a horror movie you haven't seen. And it works so well. It's like a horror version of Highlander. And it's also a metaphor for Jarvis moving to Ireland. And it works so perfectly well. I know a lot of people do not like this album because of how diverse it is.
Yeah.
They wanted Curse of the Damned Part 2,
Yep.
which I understand.
It's a great album.
It is a fantastic album, but that's not where the band is right now.
No.
And they shouldn't have to go back to that if they don't want to. This album has ballads. This album has straight ahead rockers. It's got faster songs on there. There's a little bit of Irish feeling behind it because I hear a lot of Thin Lizzy type guitar stuff going on.
Yeah.
When we first listened to it, we did not know how to feel.
Yeah.
But by the end of it, we both loved it.
Yeah.
And this never stopped being one of my favorite albums since that first listen.
Yes.
Even if I was completely thrown off in the beginning. And every time I listen to it, it just keeps getting better and better to me.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy to see everything that's happened with the band this year. The fact that next year they're opening for Blind Guardian in the US is, I hope that does gangbusters for them.
Yeah.
Because they deserve all of the love that they are getting right now. And I really feel like Outsider is their Magnus.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that they can't write their biggest masterpiece next.
Yeah.
But as of right now, Outsider is their best album.
Yeah.
But number 1, part B, dash B, is of course Panopticon,
I was wondering if that was going to make it in.
the Rhyme of Memory. I talked about it so much on here that I wish I was one of the cool kids that got a promo copy.
Yeah.
Apparently, only a few people did.
Yeah.
And despite me talking about this band for well over a decade now,
Yes.
I am not one of those cool kids that was able to get a promo copy and be able to talk about it. I'm not Decibel. I'm not Banger TV. I'm just me.
Yeah.
And if that's the way it's got to be, that's the way it's got to be. But I knew from the first single that I heard that this album was going to be something that just hit me way too hard not to include in the top 100.
Yeah.
And I was really hoping I would be able to get a chance to hear it before it came out, because some of the release dates were everywhere for this album. Some said it would be the end of November. Some said it would be the first weekend of December. Some said it would have been just this past Friday. I've seen it everywhere, so I had no idea if I was actually going to be able to check this out. Lo and behold, it came out November 30th, which was a Wednesday, which
Yeah.
is very surprising to me, the way that it came out on a Wednesday. Like, you
Yeah.
never hear about albums coming out on a Wednesday.
Right.
But this one did, and it makes so much sense thematically what's going on, because if their previous album was like a fall type album, this is a winter album.
Yeah.
And it's just a real hard look at wondering if you're good enough as a person, about the state of the world and how it's dying, and all the stuff that we're doing to not make it better,
Yeah.
and how we should.
Yeah.
There's a particular song on this album that has to do with the 1,000 acres of wildlife that got burned up in Ely, Minnesota, where Austin lives now. And it actually takes news reports from like Fox 9 in the music,
Yeah.
and like talks about like devastation of that forest fire that happened up there.
Yeah.
And of course, it talks about climate change. It talks about all these different things, the state of the world, the way that we treat people, the way that we treat ourselves. And of course, the music is that North American folk metal side. Of course, Panopticon is probably the king of doing North American folk metal because it has black metal, it has progressive metal, but it also goes into bluegrass, country, Americana, Appalachian folk, so much violin or fiddle, depending on who you are. This album has the most guest appearances as well. Like there's a full-blown choir on this album. A lot of people like doing like guest banjo and other harmonica and other stuff that goes along with it. So it really has like that North American country feel behind it and the devastation of black metal behind.
Yeah.
And that's just what makes it so emotionally driven. I don't know where it lands. Like I really should do a ranking of the Panopticon albums, but this is really near the top and it's just a devastating album. And, you know, it hits me on the leftist side, which is who I am. Like I really wish that, you know, people would actually do something to save the world so we don't die.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
And, you know, this is just an album of an example of what could happen if we don't do anything now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are my 101
Yes.
albums of 2023.
Yes.
So what is your number one?
My number one is Dead in Finland with Victory.
I was wondering when they were going to show up.
Yep. And I know this is one that you didn't get to listen to nearly enough.
No, and you're very upset with where they landed in my list.
Yes, I am, which means we're going to listen to it more later. Again, a melodic band out of Finland. Surprise, surprise. But
What gave it away?
I know, right? You couldn't figure that out. They're just such a unique sounding band. Like they're symphonic, but like in a kind of extreme way. Like it just, I don't know how to describe it really. It just kind of pounds out at you sometimes, the symphonic behind it. But it's like clean, like amazing vocals with it. And this album like just ate at my heart like no other album this year. And I would say more than their previous albums as well. Like it just, there's some emotional stuff in there, and it's such a good album. It's such a good album.
It really is. And again, it all came down to timing.
Yes.
Because, again, when you're listening to over 200 plus albums in a year, some are just going to slip by. The ones that you wish wouldn't.
Yeah.
But it happens that way. But I am glad that I did get to include them in the top 100. And yeah, when I probably do a refresh in this in June, like I did this year with like the top 10 albums of every year I've been alive, I imagine this album would be a lot higher up when I do the refresh of everything. But yeah, it is a fantastic album and a very awesome top 30 albums that you've put together this year. Nothing I would disagree with whatsoever. And perfectly matches your personality.
Yeah. and amazing job with your top 101 as well.
But it's still top 100 because it's shared, it's tied.
Exactly.
No, it's 101. I know. I lied. I lied.
Yeah.
I hope this never happens again.
Yes.
But it's also what happens when you release albums so late in the year.
Yeah, it happens.
The new Polka Dot Cadaver just came out back on Friday.
Yeah.
And had it came out even just a week sooner, it would have made my top 100.
Yep.
But it just came out back on Friday when I finished up my top 10.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to hear it.
Yeah.
So I know that's why some people wait till January, but I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
That's not who I am.
Exactly.
But with all of that said, that is our collective top 30 albums of 2023.
It is.
Easily our longest show ever that we've done, being able to talk about these albums.
Most likely, yes.
Oh, you don't believe me?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is easily our longest show that we've done to date, and this is without all the dead spots and everything being removed, but still, regardless, thank you so very much for tuning in.
Yes.
What do we got on the agenda for next week?
I know we have some holiday goodness, but I can't remember what exactly, no, I think we have, like, top of something else of the year. Maybe TV shows or something along those lines?
Yeah, well, the rest of the year is going to be filled with top 10 stuff.
Yeah.
It's either going to be gaming or TV shows or
Yeah.
movies is last.
Yes.
Because we have one particular one particular movie that we're waiting for that is
Yes.
coming out at the end of the month.
Yes.
Which is probably going to be movie of the year
Most
if everything's
likely.
done right. So, if you know anything about us, you know which movie it is. But if you
Yes.
don't, I don't want to spoil it
No.
because it also could be a giant turd as well, but I can't
Who knows?
imagine that would actually happen. But again, thank you so much for tuning into the show. Make sure to follow Heavy Debriefings everywhere you go on social media, except for X, which I hope dies a painful death by the end of the year. But of course, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, all under the name Heavy Debriefings. And of course, heavydebriefings.weebly.com to check out the written version of the top 101 albums of 2023. And of course, I also have one gigantic list that is all the albums. And then I have a too long didn't read version, which is just the albums without the reviews, in case that's more your bag. And of course, I have my top 101 albums for a Spotify link as well, which I'll put together. And then we'll also be doing a shared Spotify link as well, which combines our top 30 albums.
Or mine will be separate.
Or it could be separate as well, but I think anyone who's listened to the show will know which ones are yours and which ones are mine. But I meant that for Spotify. But of course, if you want to check out the written version as well, I'll put that up as well with just the albums, because you don't go into as much detail as my long-winded self.
Yes.
So with that said, one last time, thank you very much for tuning in. For the Metal Faerie, this is Josh Ronquist for the Heavy Debriefings podcast saying, see ya.